Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It is time once again for the Majors series, and this time we are down in Australia for the Pacific Region's Sandown 500, the 8th round of the championship here in virtual Victoria. Drivers driving solo for 161 laps around one of Australia's historic and high-profile venues here. And it's going to be a fun one for sure. Driving the Holden Commodores and Ford Mustangs around here on SimSpeed TV, the home of V8 racing on the iRacing service. All right, let's jump into this live on YouTube, Facebook, and Kick. It's myself, Reese Gardner, with Jay Kennedy alongside me in the commentary box and also in the producer's chair as well. Jay, we've had plenty of V8 Enduros running through our veins in the last couple of weeks, but the high is not over.
100%, and this one's a little bit more unique with it being a fairly long race, but solo driver, which is something we haven't seen around this circuit for sure. We've seen it at Bathurst before in the past, we've seen it at other circuits as well, but this is going to be a very, very tough ask for the drivers in this one. It is a tough circuit, it is a challenging circuit, it is a mentally draining circuit, so this is going to be a very, very tough race. 161 lap solo, about 3.25 hours of racing. It's going to be very, very intense for the drivers.
Yeah, that it is. They're in for the long haul here, aren't they? Let's check out Sandown International Motor Racing. Calls itself the home of horsepower, and that's because it is a combined venue. Not only is it a car racing track, it's also a horse racing track as well. Zoom on in to Dandenong and the southeast of Metro Melbourne, and you can see the horse racing track in the center of the area covered by the racetrack. And well, it's a pretty simple looking layout initially when you see it, but there are all of these little complexities in that layout, Jay, that make it a very challenging circuit.
Yeah, it's a really challenging track. I mean, it looks really simple on paper, but you've got such long straights with very, very tight, narrow 90-degree corners, and then you go down to turn 9 at Dandenong Road. It's just over a 90-degree corner, and it's very, very intense because you've got such a heavy loaded braking zone, very easy to outbrake yourself. We're going to see lots of incidents up through 6, 7, 8, 9, but that run out of turn 4 and the run up to turn 6 to the S's, it's about who's the bravest and who's got the biggest brakes, because it is very, very tough to put the car up. too wide through there. Never, ever, ever works. So we hopefully won't see too much of it. But if we do, someone's going to end their race in tears.
Yeah, either that or they're going to lose a lot of time trying to gather it up. Of course, this track has been through a couple of different layouts, as you can see, highlighted in blue and yellow over the course of this track's history. And this is how things started out for Sandown. It used to be a little bit simpler when it opened in the early 1960s. Then in 1984, the FIA World Sports Car Championship came by and the layout was modified and extended. But of course, that layout wasn't very popular with other categories, so this layout, the modern layout, was put back in. It was the national layout when the international circuit was put in, but now it is the only layout of Sandown that is raced. So that is what is on for the drivers. Before we get into the racing action tonight, probably a good idea to check out the championship standings going into this round. Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinds are currently on top in practice, with Dylan Gray in third. No surprise to see that the Aussies are on top, but I think it's a bit of a tighter battle here between Christian Challoner and Justin Morton at the top of the standings. Tom Abramitis not too far behind either. I'm interested to see how the battle works out between Travis Walling and Brenton Foster as well.
Yeah, really, really tight championship fight the whole way through, and drop rounds have now started to come into play as well. So we're going to see that mix up a little bit more. Some drivers had a catastrophe at Crandon, others really capitalised. That's why it has closed up a little bit throughout the middle of that top 10. But yeah, still a lot of racing left. I mean, we've got 3 rounds still to go. We've got this one. We've got 3 really unique rounds of racing, haven't we? We've got the 87 NASCAR Cup cars next round, and then the Mercedes W13 the final round. So lots of different racing still to come. So some drivers may not have hit their specialty yet. So don't be surprised to see this championships change once more. But Challoner, we know how good he is. We've seen it throughout this season and seasons past. No surprise to see him at the top of the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And Challoner is still showing pace even in these cars, which tend to be a bit of an Aussie and New Zealand specialty, currently 5th in practice. Moving on to the legend standings for drivers over 50 years of age, it is a 1-2 for Middle Finger Racing, with Dan Stevens and Gav Barber on top, but Brian Bennett for Sector 5 still fighting with Barnes and McGreevy for the title of Top Brian in third.
Yeah, we saw McGreevy actually has jumped ahead of Wayne Hutchison, who had a shocker last round at Crandon. So the only change in the top 10 of the legend standings from the previous round is that little shuffle there. But Teams Championship has seen another little shuffle as well. Middle Finger Racing has jumped ahead of Dog Bear Blue for the top 5 in the Teams Championship. But there's not much in that 4th through to 7th area. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that change again. The last 3 rounds between Mad, Middle Finger, Dog Bear, and Sector 5. They're all very, very close there in that middle of the top 10.
Now, they certainly are. There is a lot to think about going into these last few rounds of the major series for 2023. Well, now then, once we keep our eyes in on how things are going in practice, it's a pretty simple event. The way this is going to go down, 161 laps, 500 Ks, but it is solo. When this race is usually run as part of the Real World Australian Touring Car Series and also V8 Series here on the sim, it is a 2-driver enduro. You can share cars with another driver, but here in the majors, it is solo. Minimum of 3 pit stops, and it looks to me like drivers will be able to go for about 40 laps on a tank. That's the number that we discussed, Jay. They should probably try and split it evenly, 40 laps with 161 on the board.
Well, we know from past in countless broadcasts of these cars that tyres are more important than anything else, so you want fresh tyres for as long as possible. So you don't want to run it to 44 laps if you can avoid it. You prefer to take it at 40 and 4 laps of better tyres than lift fall off of these horrible pieces of rubber that do not suit size of the cars. Solo driver race, so it's very, very demanding track in regards to concentration. It does look simple, as we said, but those tight sections are very, very intense mentally, so it's going to be a very mentally fatiguing race. I'm glad I'm up here watching. I don't think I would have the stamina to sit through a 500k race solo at this track.
Yeah, me either. It would be a very tough job, especially in these cars. Of course, the Majors Series supports a charity for every single event too. If you are doing it tough, make sure to get in touch with Beyond Blue. If you're Australian, you know who Beyond Blue are. They are one of the leading organisations for mental health support in the Australian region. Go to beyondblue.org.au. You can access plenty of resources there, and you can lend your support to Beyond Blue as well. Drivers pay for extra qualifying laps in the majors throughout the week, and the proceeds from those go to the charities supported for each individual event. Okay, only a few minutes left in the practice session. And, of course, our Zoom wall is nice and full. Dan Stevens, still with his heart monitor, Jay, but he's got an extra graphic on there now. Looks like he's tracking his heart rate over the last 5 minutes.
I wonder if he's doing that for us or for himself. Because he's heard us talk about how much his heart rate goes up to. He does often will send me a little screenshot of what his heart rate has got up to, but I'm wondering if he's got that for himself as much as us. But we've also got Sam Harper, Justin Morton, and Gavin Barber. You can see Gavin down in the bottom right. He's bouncing over the curbs there and on the grass. You can tell from his seat moving as opposed to his screen. He's giving us a little wave as well. Hello to the guys on Zoom, and we'll catch up with them throughout the race, no doubt at all.
Yeah, Justin Morton was the one in the bottom left, in case you were not aware. Looks like about 2.5 minutes left in practice here. And Brett Loxton on top with a 1:06.831. That's the quickest lap out of anyone so far. And I'm not sure what kinds of times we saw throughout the qualifying sessions over the week leading up to the race, but I would presume that is very close to the fastest time set. But our championship leader, Christian Challoner, in 5th place right now, and only a few hundredths behind his championship rival Justin Morton.
Yeah, not far apart are those two at the moment in the practice session, but in regards to qualifying throughout the week, Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinds did set the fastest laps of the week. 1:06.9 was the only qualifying time in the entirety of the majors by Brett Loxton into the 1:06s. So Loxton the fastest out of everyone, the 4th fastest time in regards to the whole of the major series was set by Dallas Pataska in the Atlantic region. So top 3 in the field are Pacific. They'll have a 31 car field, but seeing 3rd place qualifier on the grid, that being Matty Jones. So down to 30 potentially. Now, one thing I did want to talk about while you were mentioning before, Reese, about how good Christian Challoner is in regards to pacing these cars by the looks of it. We need to remember that he has raced in the top flight of eNASCAR. Now, anyone that has driven a NASCAR Cup car on a road course and driven these cars will know that there are similarities. They're not the same by any means, but the driving style is similar enough that if you can handle one, you may be able to get a little bit of pace out of the other.
Yeah, indeed. It's all about taking your time on the brakes, making sure that you turn in properly and nice and gently, introduce the tyres to the grip that they need for the corner, and be very smooth on the throttle. These cars produce 600 horsepower, and they do it through both rear wheels at equal rates all the time. These cars, they do have differentials, but they are locked. They are 100% all the time. You can't change any of the diff settings in these things. And very importantly, on that note, drivers are practicing their standing starts. They do take a bit of strategy in these cars as well. And more to the point, I suppose Challoner also responsible for quite a few of the default setups that iRacing has now, so that gives him a bit of an advantage too. This is the grid then for the majors. Sandown 500. Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinds for Henry James Racing will be on the front row. Travis Walling qualifying in 3rd place, starting alongside Stephen Banks. Justin Morton and Miles Crabb rounding out the top 6. Then we've got Daniel Stevens and Austin Peterson in 7th and 8th. Top 10 rounded out by Christian Challoner and Dylan Gray, who we've not seen much of this year in the majors. Abramatis and Barber will round out the top 12.
Patton and Dowd with Harper and McGreevy on 8th row. We're going to leave it there, though, because we are going. They've given us no time to get into it. We are ready to go.
This is a quick grid time, and oh, there we go. That looks like a potential jump start somewhere in the field. Couple of jump starts, at least from further back, but very consistent start from our top 2 as there's contact between Walling and Stephen Banks as Justin Morton tries to find a way through on the both of them. But Thomas Hinds into the lead. He and Brett Loxton already skipping away from the rest of the field. Daniel Stevens running a chickadee paint scheme. There's someone around. Oh, there's 2 people around at turn 4. Looks like Brian Bennett and Cody Richardson, unfortunately, having to make some recoveries there on the first lap.
Of course, no safety car periods throughout this race, so green from now all the way to the end of the 161st lap as it goes side by side with Abramatis and Harper, and around goes Josh Thomas in the background there.
Oh, no.
He did save it though, so he didn't make contact with anyone. He just put his foot on the brake a little bit too hard and saved the car.
That he did.
Make contact actually. The bonnet has been ripped off that car.
Okay, is he going to pull into the pits and take his spare car? No, he's going to keep going for a bit just to see if the car is still good. It's a long race. You know, you need to preserve your spare car as long as you can. If you can't keep it clean, then you might as well just plug away, because if you have another crash later on and you've already taken your spare car, you're basically done. Here's Dan Stevens then chasing down 13th position. Tom Abramatis in car 20, just up ahead of him. And tell you what, I think Dan Stevens was one of the cars to really lose a lot of time on that first lap. Remember, he started in 7th, down to 14th as he tries chasing him down. Oh dear, just up ahead. That's a problem there for Miles Crabb, who went a bit wide in the S's coming down to Dandenong Road. Very easy place to make a mistake, Jay. We've seen it many times before.
Yep, definitely have. I watched the Sandown 500 from that exact location in the real world. I'll tell you that happens a lot. I see it a lot throughout this race and Motorsport races as well. So don't be surprised to see many lockups down at that corner. Heavy braking zone, very difficult car up. For the most part, other than that incident we saw on lap 1, it's been a very clean start to the race.
Yeah, it has. I think, you know, in other V8 series that we see on the iRacing service, including one that we broadcast ourselves here at SimSpeed TV, we see that drivers are often quite aggressive on the first lap. But I think it's a bit of a refreshing change here in the majors, seeing that...
side, isn't it?
Yeah, relatively clean first lap, everyone taking care. Of course, most of the drivers in this field will be unfamiliar with these cars. They won't know exactly how hard they can be pushed, so they'll leave themselves a little bit more of a margin. They'll take a little bit more care when they're in a battle with someone.
I can confirm, I just went back and looked at the race start, there's been no black flags from the start. This was the incident, though, that we saw. That was Cody Richardson that got in the wall there, and that's Brian Bennett. Got turned around as he tried to rejoin the track, but other than that, there was pretty much nothing that would have brought race control into action in the real world. Christian Challoner has made a move there on Justin Morton. He's now found himself up into the top 5 already. Also, you can see there's a couple of drivers that had some brilliant starts, which we'll get some replays on as well.
Yeah, we will. It's all about nailing the starts in these things. There's a particular strategy that works out really well, using the handbrake to get these cars off the line. Also notice that Morton is missing his rear wing, which isn't much of a problem in these cars, but still, that's a sign that his first few laps haven't quite been clean.
It doesn't actually do anything to the car. This is on board with Garen Batten, by the way. So watch this. Look at the start. Everyone's just been sleeping. In his way, he's gone.
That's amazing.
Brilliant start. He's gone from... where did he start? Position number... He started in 13th. He got himself now in 12th, but it looks like he's gained about 5 spots off the start straight away. He's done a very, very good job, but he's lost them all back very quickly.
That was a fantastic run off the line for Garen Batten. It's probably one of the best starts I've seen in an Australian touring car. Also making up a ton of places is Josh Thomas, who is up 5 spots in 15th. Up 4th, Chris Tito and Andrew Kotska. The rest of the drivers, they've been up a few places, if that. This is what happened to Morton, by the way. That is the number 1 car of Challoner, going to be making the pass. So, what?
It's weird, isn't it?
Okay.
Confused by that as well. So there was no contact, but I'm guessing it was knocked loose earlier on and then off the car. So not exactly sure what happened to make that fall off, but it's gone.
Yeah.
One thing to note about that too is it's an actual visual. It doesn't actually affect the downforce of the car. So it's purely visual. We're having a performance loss on that easy. Should be okay to continue on for a fair while with that damage. One thing about these cars as well is probably will get that fixed in the pit stop without using his spare car when he goes fuel stop around about 35 odd laps.
Indeed. Remember, drivers will be taking 3 stops on their way to the finish here. Brett Loxton back into the lead. Thomas Hens giving up the position some time ago. So the 2 Jinx Shifters cars will be just controlling the race from here on out. Looks like Loxton made that move coming into turn 6 on the previous lap, so it looked like a fairly textbook pass to me. Loxton clearly the fastest driver in this session as we get a look at the Kingsman car.
Josh Thomas made a mistake.
Josh Thomas already carrying damage. He was up quite a few positions, but yeah, losing a spot there, unfortunately. So, lap 7 now begins for our leaders, and looks like it's on for 3rd here with Stephen Banks now getting chased down by Christian Challoner. Remember, Challoner was in 5th in practice, but he started 9th on the grid, so his qualifying pace wasn't necessarily indicative of how well he's going to do in this race, and that's a little bit wide coming out of turn 4 there for Banks, but he does hook up the power nicely. Challoner, though, has the slipstream coming down the back stretch. Unlikely that he'll make the pass down here, but you can see how powerful the slipstream is. He makes up a lot of time on the way to the 6th turn here. Would this be a move into Dandenong Road? No, too far back for that. Though we have seen lobs from that far back before.
Definitely have, but they don't always work out when you do from that far back. And ending tiers often does, but it is a very, very good passing opportunity if you are ambitious enough and you have a bit of cooperation from the driver that you are overtaking. A lot easier said than done, as Brett Loxton says the fastest lap of the race, 7.5. Pretty decent lap time at this early stage. We're going to see the conditions improve for the drivers as the race progresses as well. It will get hotter, and right at the end of the race it will start to cool off and make it absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it absolutely will. Currently 11:15 in sim time, and reasonable amount of humidity as well. So yeah, looks like the conditions are nice for fast laps at the moment. The thing that we need to talk about in terms of strategy, you touched on it at the top of the show, Jay, is how quick the tyres are in these cars right out of the box. You can get about, I'd say, 15 laps into a stint, and the tyres will still be good, and you'll be able to set fast laps, but then they really drop off. These tyres go through quite a bit on these cars, and drivers will have to consider that when it's time to pit.
So you get maybe 2-3 laps of really good tyre performance right at the start of your stint. And from there it will slowly degrade for, as you said, 15, maybe 20 laps of competitive tyres. And then after that, a little downhill, you might find yourself 4 seconds, 5 seconds pace by the end of a really long stint. You have also seen in the past drivers blow tyres in the series as in V8s before. So if you do push too hard for too long, you may find yourself in tears by the end of a stint, but fingers crossed we won't see that and see too many drivers have tyre issues. I think by the time we get through a few stints with these weather conditions, we might be okay. Extremely hot. This battle for fourth is quite heated though. You can see a little bit of a mistake there from Stephen Banks in the 545. Down the 1 car of Challenger, right there ready to pounce. The issue he's got is he can't half attempt the move. He has to get it done, because if he doesn't finish the move off properly, Justin Morton right behind is going to get in there and take this one away. So Challenger has to be 100% perfect getting this move done. I don't think he's close enough down the front straight unless this is a big dive.
Does pull out and have a look at a move, but Stephen Banks holds steadfast. It's going to be all about traction. Sandown is a traction and power circuit. Problem for the number 19, meanwhile. Oh dear, that is off at Dandenong Road. Yeah, absolutely. That was Nick Kuhn, who unfortunately went off there. Very easy to lose the rear coming through those S's, because, I mean, Sandown being such a top speed dependent circuit, the drivers don't run much wing here. So you're going to have to be very careful of your car's behaviour through those turns. Looks like there's been a problem for Brenton Foster. That's at turn 4. Mega Racing Team Commodore around, and I don't know if contact was involved in that, but does manage to get back going. Yeah, absolutely. That is
the retro look that a lot of teams are going for at this one.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Really love it. So it looks like Foster was here trying to make a move on the 68 of McGreevy. And, he got tapped in the rear from Chris Yatito on the exit of the corner.
It looked like he just had to check up a little bit to make sure he didn't run into the back of Greavy and then got a little tap from behind himself. So the awkward thing about these cars in a 3-car battle, or an odd-numbered group of cars, is the lead car can slightly go off the pace, and it's the middle car that pays all of the price for it. They get the aero washed down the straight, they can't overtake the aero in these cars, and then they can't.
Banks.
Mistake.
Oh, that's contact with Challoner as well. That gives the opportunity to Justin Morton to move into 4th spot. And right there with them is Dylan Gray. Christian Challoner moves back into the racing line and will maintain that position for the time being. But that was a near disaster for those drivers down at Dandenong Road. It looks to me like Banks just lost the rear over the curb coming into that corner. That's a shame.
I've seen a lot as well. It all happens at that corner. If you do ever get the chance to go to Sandown, we all know that at one day in the future that is nearer than further away, it's going to close down. Make sure it's on your bucket list to go to before that point. Do get the chance to watch racing there. That is the one spot that you need to go down turn 9 to watch. The grandstand here on the front straight is absolutely great as well. You can see the entire circuit from the grandstand on the front straight. So it is a fantastic facility, a fantastic track. It's sad that one day it will leave us. That happens so often. It's so easy to lock that inside front tyre because it's unloaded from the way that previous corner sets you up. So we'll see that a lot more. Gray now in this group. He's looking very smooth as well.
He is indeed. Bring your attention away from that for a second, because McGreevy has just towed back to the pits. He was he went around at turn 4, got stuck in the wall. So unfortunate there for McGreevy. So Chris Yatito behind him. Was this contact? No, actually. McGreevy just spun it round, and once he was in the Armco, it looks like the front bumper was lodged in there, and he tried to get it going for a few seconds, but just wasn't able to. So that's a really unfortunate retirement there for Brian McGreevy. Hopefully once the tow is done and he gets the damage repaired, he can get back out there and at least circulate for the rest of the race, try and pick up some points later.
Well, there's still going to be positions to gain, isn't there? Because other drivers are going to make similar mistakes. We've got no doubt about that as well. So when fatigue comes in later on in the event, we'll see that even more. India can confirm half spin for Stephen Banks was just a tiny little bit on the outside at turn number 9. Watch his right-hand tyres here. On the curb, starts to slide, and hits the inside curb. No grip once the car's already unloaded. Avoiding action from Morton and Gray to get through, and unlucky for Challoner, he almost got through.
Yeah, almost got through without taking damage, and even then, the only damage that Challoner has is a little scrape to the right-hand side, so that car hasn't lost any pace. So, take 2. Challoner has to get by Morton once more. And look at that. He pulls out at turn 6. Morton gives him room. Oh, but Challoner nearly loses it on the way in. It is dangerous. Dylan Gray now sees an opportunity to make his way past, but unfortunately, nothing doing for either of them. Morton lost the rear just a little bit on the exit of turn 9, but he was far enough ahead that he was able to get it gathered up. So now it's all about the run down the front straight. Let's see what Challoner can do to get by, because he's facing pressure from both ends. Not only does he have to get by Morton, he has to keep Gray behind as well.
And Dylan Gray's been very, very good around this track lately, hasn't he? We saw in the older generation V8s, he had very, very good pace around here in the support series a few weeks ago. But don't be surprised to see him start to make moves. One thing to note while this battle is cool for a moment is that Loxton's broken away from Thomas Hinds at the front, so Loxton now has a 3.5 second advantage at the front. He's checked out, we probably won't see him until the end of the race now. Thomas Hinds is starting to come back into the group behind, so Travis Walling, who's broken away from these guys after their little miss, that was great. Now starting to close in on Hinds with this group. They're bringing more drivers in. You can see there Austin Peterson at the back of the group in the mega car. Castrol inspired livery. Closing in on this group, so it's 5-car training.
A little bit of Larry Perkins energy coming from Austin Peterson here. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a truly iconic livery.
Amazing as well. Couple of lightning bolts on the front that just instantly flash back to me to 2007 Greg Murphy Super Cheap.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Always love to see the liveries that drivers put out, particularly from Mega Racing Team. They really pull out all the stops every single round, and also Middle Finger Racing too. Dan Stevens running that.
Some favourites?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got good memories of that paint scheme. Scott Stevens painted up a Chickadee-inspired livery for me and Jimmy Broadbent when we did the iRacing Official Bathurst 1000 a few years back. Really awesome stuff. Gab Barber running a Jack Daniels racing scheme.
It's like the old Perkins Racing Jack Daniels livery, like the racing versions. Very, very old school one, but all of the old school paints that we got running are from the same era except for the Chickadee one. They're all from the early to mid 2000s era, which is probably when this sort of racing was in its absolute prime in Australia as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Australian touring car racing has always been strong. Of course, in recent years, it's had a few blips, but regardless, still maintains the same level of popularity that it has for a while now. But yeah, early 2000s, that was, for many people, the prime era of this form of motorsport. The cars looked wonderful, the drivers were fantastic, the racing was awesome. And let's see if they bring back some of that energy here in the Majors Series. Challoner still chasing down Morton. That is
That's definitely
certainly...
not mid-2000s.
Yeah, that's certainly a retro scheme there for Tom Abramatis.
That being mid-60s?
Yeah.
Holden Torano?
Something like that, yeah.
It'll be 70s if it's Torano, but... Yeah, that's a... Well, the old school shell logo on the side as well. It's a good touch.
That is, absolutely. Sometimes the simplest liveries are the best ones. And of course, this one here, Brenton Foster, it's Wilson Security inspired, is it?
Yeah, it's the inspiration of the inspiration, I think. So the original livery was an 80s Volvo, and then Gary Rogers Wilson Security Volvo. Which this is inspired by because the Mega logo has been converted from the Wilson Security logo to the box. So that's what that one is. I think it's absolutely amazing looking. Mega, fantastic paints out there.
Absolutely.
I can't stop looking at this one. That's
Yeah, it definitely stands out, doesn't it? Seeing Andrew Kotska losing places. Oh, he spun.
that's the wrong spot. It's around.
Yeah, that's at turn 3. And oh, careful on the reverse, mate. Yeah, and there's also a bit of an uphill run you have to make to get back onto the circuit. Fortunately, there's enough grip on the grass now that you're able to do that without much fuss. Kotska was already losing positions before this. He was passed at turn 1 by Tyrone Walsh in the Sud Speed car, and then trying to take advantage was Chris Shearburn. And, well, unfortunately, it's hard to run side by side through that section.
I think downhill's just caught him out there, and downhill a bit too fast and all. But good news is he's back out on track and still going. Lane, so he's a spare car and get back out on track. Brian McGreevy also has used his spare car and he's back out on track. Actually, I can confirm he has not used his spare car and got back out on track. So he's gone back out after towing without getting any damage for it. So he's still got his spare. It's great news for him.
Yeah, good stuff. That'll definitely provide him with an extra security net towards the end of this very long race.
Now, Reese, I knew that the YouTube chat would always come through. Shout out to Henry King. I'll just look this one. It's a Norm Beachy Holden Monaro from 1970.
Righto. Nice. Always love the old Monaros. And Norm Beachy, goodness, that's a name that goes a long way back. Of course, Australian touring car racing has a super long history. First Australian Touring Car Championship race happened in, was it 1960 at New Blas?
I think so, and then the first ever August 1000 was 1963, so it's the 60th anniversary this year. 63? Was it 61
I think so.
and 62 races were at Phillip Island?
Yep, and it was a 500-mile race when it first started. But then sometime in the 1970s, I believe, it changed to 1,000 kilometers.
Battle going on back here. Cody Richardson and Chris Shearburn. Give over a little bit of damage. Might be feeling a little sheepish after the contact that happened. I don't think there's anything too wrong in it, but you always feel guilty when you see someone hit the wall.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like he might get a taste of that himself here. Contact with Cody Richardson coming down to Dandenong Road, but there's enough runoff there that Shearburn is able to recover. Careful on the re-entry, though. That's a very dangerous part of the circuit. Fortunately, he gets back into line just in time for Jake Fox to come through, and it's not going to result in any further contact there.
Jake Fox to be aware of there being an incident up ahead and slowing down early enough to make sure he didn't get involved and hold on to him.
Yeah, the Kingsman Racing 08 is going to move aside and let our leader through. Brett Loxton already lapping people at the rear of this field. Oh, yeah, that's Challoner finally getting by Morton again at the final two turns. And Morton didn't have enough room on the outside there to gear up the exit, so I think Dylan Gray might fancy a chance at moving past him as well. Let's see what the run is like into the first turn here. Challoner got on the brakes a little early there. Could have afforded to move back to the racing line. Gray moving Morton off the track there. Well, that's a taste of Australian touring car racing there for Morton.
Elbows out. They need to be pointy and sharp. But you're going to need to hit people. You have no choice. You don't want to do it intentionally, but you will end up hitting people in this race, this series. Through our Zoom wall as we're halfway through the first stint. Can you believe we're already halfway through the first stint of Iron Field?
Yeah, goodness. Time has absolutely flown by, hasn't it? We'll only have 3 more to go after this. On board with Sam Harper, who's sitting in 14th at the moment, up 1 place from where he started. Gavin Barber and Dan Stevens in the MFR cars, they haven't had a great first stint. They've moved back a few positions, but we'll see how they go in the long run. You can always count on the Middle Finger Racing guys to come through at the very end. Dan Stevens' historic heart rate is looking pretty steady at the moment, but still,
that's not working properly. It's staying very stable.
Yeah, 123 BPM. I think if you maintain that for half an hour or thereabouts,
maintain that for 3 hours, you'd want to go for a nap.
Yeah, true. And, depending on your general health level, you might want to take a visit to the emergency room too. Yeah, he's got time here on the back straight. Change a couple of things.
You have a fair bit of car adjusting that you can make, being your brake bias, which you really do have to be very proactive with brake bias in these cars, because they do, it does make a big difference in these cars throughout a stint. I wonder if that little adjustment you made was actually...
Yeah, maybe. You never know. The adjustability of these cars on the fly is something that always astounds me. Obviously in a Formula One car, you can adjust pretty much everything, aside from engine mapping, of course. But in these cars, the adjustments aren't like, you don't have a plethora of them, but there's still a lot of stuff you can adjust to alter the behavior of these cars, particularly brake bias, as you mentioned, and anti-roll bars as well. That's something that you'll often see drivers in the real world adjusting corner to corner almost. I remember seeing an onboard from Shane Van Gisbergen on a pole lap in the real world, and he was changing those anti-roll bar levers in between every single corner. So if you're on top of it, you can really make these cars drive exactly to your liking.
You've got to have a fair bit of skill to be able to do. That's a mistake from Bennett. You've got to have a lot of skill to be able to adjust every single lap. Those that do it well, those that are skilled enough to be up the pointy end of the field. So that's as big a part of it as the footwork in these cars, which TG astounded people right the world over with his footwork and over to race at Chicago. Metal packs, very, very interesting. One that we didn't talk about was the one with Max Santana running the actual Golden Racing Team livery from the Minneapolis 1000. I'm going to say 15?
Yeah. Mid-2010s at the very least. I have some memories of that Red Rooster emblazoned livery. Haven't had Red Rooster in a while. Might pick some up this week. Being in WA, I tend to go for Chicken Treat, though.
I don't even know what that is, Chicken Treat. We don't have that over this side of the world.
Yeah, you don't actually. That's interesting. Stan Stevens has made his way past Nathan Dowd. I know it's a bit early for the inevitable food discussion, Jay. But true. Yeah, Chicken Treat is owned by the same company as Red Rooster. They are WA's rotisserie chicken establishment, is how the move was made. It looks like just a slide on the corner exit for the Mustang, and Dan Stevens moves on through. That is another position gain back there, up into the top 10 for the Middle Finger Racing number 3. The 052 of Dylan Gray, meanwhile, on the headlight flash because they are coming through the lapped cars here. Challoner still ahead. It's Andrew Kotska who's the car ahead here in the Mad Sim Racing 047. Now, does he let Gray by here? He's going to keep his foot in it, but he's going to get on the brakes early, I'd imagine, here at the chicane. Yep, lets him through. Yes. Well, I mean, in days past, that would have been a death sentence, but of course, last build, iRacing up to the grip of grass and gravel, and so drivers are able to take a little bit more of it now.
Starting to close in on top of Abramatis. Abramatis has started to drop in regards to pace the last 3 laps. He just did a 1:10 comparison to Batten and Sam Harper behind doing 1:08, 1:08.6. So losing a little bit of ground is Tom Abramatis. So keep an eye on him over the next few laps. Gap is 5 seconds. Actually, it's down to 2.5 now. So maybe he is one of the ones that has cooked the tyres. Remember we said before that about 20 laps the tyres really start to drop off. They only get worse from that point. We're now 27 laps into the stint. How many more laps will he have left in these tyres? He might have to be one of these ones that may go to a 4 pit stop strategy because he's got nothing left in regards to the tyres.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, yeah, if you want to minimise your pit stop time, the way to do it is to save the tyres and not push. But obviously Batten, having made that excellent start and then unfortunately losing a lot of those positions on the first lap, has been pushing hard to try and make that time up. But I think some drivers, particularly in the rear of the field, might be committing to doing a 4-stop race. Gray, meanwhile, continuing to jet away there in 5th place, as this is Austin Peterson having just made his way past Jake Fox. Peterson currently in 7th place. He has to keep an eye out for Stephen Banks behind. Got 2 lap cars in between them, but we'll see what Banks can do here to try and make up a few further spots. He made his way past Miles Crabb a lap ago and is looking a bit quicker than Peterson at the moment, only by a few tenths, but that can make all the difference.
Awkward thing is that these guys here, Jake Fox and Andrew Costa, who are in the middle of that group, are actually in a battle. They're battling each other while they're trying to work themselves out of traffic. As it goes on, just goes on by. Jake Fox tries to get out of the way of the lap traffic, and that ends the battle for now. So, that's an interesting part of this sort of racing. That's a huge mistake. He's going to keep it on the track.
And they're back together.
Back together again. Here we go. The battle continues.
I get the feeling Jake Fox channeled a bit of Nostradamus there. I think maybe he realised that Kotska would have to either move aside or make a mistake at some point, and that would bring them back together. Fox also lifts off to let Daniel Stevens go. So those guys will continue fighting for a while, despite the lapping cars making their way through. For now, it's just a question of waiting for that first round of pit stops. Brett Loxton is currently in the lead by 2.4 seconds. That gap is a little bit smaller than it was some time ago, I think due to him having to make his way past lap traffic. So, I mean, it's fair. Loxton had the margin. He could afford to back off a little bit, look after the tyres, make sure that he didn't get into any unnecessary incidents. He is still comfortably in the lead versus his teammate Thomas Hicks.
8 tenths of a second. Lap traffic can cost you a fair bit of time if you catch them at the wrong points. We'll see that ebb and flow throughout. It's not even past the lap traffic, it's involved in the lap traffic itself incidents, which we've seen already. The guys at the back who are a little bit less experienced than both Loxton and into, I two of the most experienced drivers, not only in the series and in this race in this car, but within the entire iRacing service in these cars. Getting involved with the drivers that are a lot more inexperienced is going to be their biggest fight in this race.
And that's why I love the Majors series so much, because you have a huge variety of drivers from across the world who specialize in all sorts of different disciplines of racing, and the Majors makes a point of being a different car track combo for every round, emulating big events around the world. So you do see certain drivers up towards the top in some races, and other drivers in just about every other race too, which is really fantastic format for a series. I've enjoyed this series from the moment we started broadcasting it on SimSpeed, because it really awards the drivers who are versatile. It rewards drivers who are able to just drive a car fast, no matter what track it's on, no matter what kind of car it is.
I think the other part of that too is that this series shows the drivers that have pace but don't have racecraft as well.
Yeah.
Because you need to have the racecraft to go with the pace to be able to get yourself through these sort of fields that are a little bit more difficult to overtake. Drivers that are a lot more inexperienced, aren't used to the cars, aren't used to the behaviour of the car. And I mean, the next two races are completely different again, with the North Wilkesboro race in the 1987 NASCAR Cup cars, and then we finish it off in the Mercedes W13.
That's going back.
Basically the Williams again. We have done it before though, but
We have.
yeah, it would be a throwback. But yeah, the difference in the driving styles for those races, not to even consider what we've already run this season, is incredible. So the versatility factor, the racecraft that's required to make overtakes and making it through, it's just as important as having that outright pace.
Yeah, and also tackling different formats as well. I mean, we saw it last round at Crandon. That was a real oddball round when it comes to this series, because usually it focuses on road and oval racing. Crandon was an off-road race, and we had to deal with heats and last chance qualifiers, and everyone coming together at the end with the land rush start as well. So, you know, drivers who are able to keep on their toes and you know, extract pace where they need to, tackle different types of circuit, different types of surface, are the ones who'll come on top here, with Sam Harper now being the first driver to take a scheduled pit stop, and that's pretty early.
Well, I think he's reverse engineering the race. Remember how we said at the start, if you do the 44 odd lap stints, if you did 44 laps, you'd end up with a 32 lap stint at the end, or 31 laps at the end, which is being at the end of lap 32. He's doing the race backwards, so he's going to do 44, 43 lap stints from now to.
Alright, let's see if that works out for Harper.
I wonder if it was traffic that he's decided to get out of the way and just, you know, off
maybe. Yeah, I think that'd be smart, because, you know, it's still the early phases of the race. The majority of the field is still close together, and so if you're involved in cars in front of you trying to fight, which are going a lap down, etc., probably best to jump into the pits, get the service out of the way, and now you can try and make up some time here. You'll see the difference with fresh tyres versus old tyres here, with Harper having come out just behind the number 11 of Brenton Foster. Keep an eye out for how much ground he makes up on entry and exit. He backs off in the slipstream. He'll just tour his way through the S's, doesn't want to get right in the back of Foster, but makes up time on the brakes and then hard on the power. And you see that Foster was struggling a little bit with oversteer there. Even Harper's struggling a little bit too. Tyres still not quite up to temperature, I think, but that car is going to be ridiculously fast for a few laps.
It'll probably start to trigger the chain reaction as well, so we'll start to see everyone else go, well, hang on, why has he done that strategy-wise? Have I missed something? And people will start second-guessing their own self-strategy and self-belief in what they're doing, so see the pit lane start to light up a little bit in the next lap or two, I think. this by this stage. I took my eye off it and had a little look at it on my other monitor, and all of a sudden it's just absolutely heated up so quick. This is Josh Thomas, Chris Shatito, and Tyrone Walsh, all very close. Oh, Walsh having a huge slide on the curb there. Runs it wide, but keeps it out of the wall.
Yeah, goodness me. Looks like Harper and Foster trading spots behind, and Harper does get by Foster at an unconventional spot. But the move is done. Also seeing that Jason Lottridge has apparently had an incident. He's towed back to the pits too.
Just saw a huge slide from Thomas, went off the line, and then had a huge moment coming onto the front straight. So let's see if we can pick up a couple of replays of what's going on. But it's been an action-packed couple of laps, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it has. So we'll see what happened to Lottridge first, and this is a very similar incident to what happened to McGreevy before. Just lost the rear coming out of turn 4 and got into the Armco barrier, and he's stuck.
For Josh Thomas, it's a slide on through the first part of the front complex corners.
Oh, yeah.
Just can't get any grip. It tries to get the power down with the speed, but just has a huge slide. Surprised he didn't put that into the pit wall, but did a very, very good job of not making contact with that wall. After making another move, this is Mark Santana, he gets past, and done rather easily. Watch now that he's got through this one, he will just blitz away.
Look at that.
In the next couple of corners.
Look at the gap he made up on the exit alone. Oh man, it always blows my mind.
I wonder if anyone else in this group goes, hey, that's how good you guys are. Maybe I need some players. Nobody cares, but I tell you what, there'll be a few guys that were thinking about it now that they've seen that.
Indeed. I mean, you know, I've barely ever raced in these cars myself, but I did do a league earlier in the year, run by our good friend Keenan Kusin. The V8 Super Rick Championship ran the older cars from 2014, and I experienced firsthand just how good new tires are in these things, and it really was mind-blowing. Old tires, you know, I was sliding around, having to take great care through the corners, but then bolt some new tires on, and I was like, goodness me, there's just a world of difference.
Almost like it's a new car, isn't it? When you go from the progression from a new set of tyres down to the old, you can understand how the car behaves, but if you were to bolt on an old set of tyres to start your stint, you know, what is this piece of trash? I mean, most drivers would say that this car is a piece of trash the way it goes anyway, but that's one of the things I love about it.
It's designed that way.
It's supposed to be a piece of trash. That's what the intention of the car is.
Overpowered, under-tired.
Yep, and under-braked. But this difference between new and old does make it feel like it's a brand new car when you bolt new tyres on. You do notice the difference. You do notice the pace of damage you've got. The other part of that is you are robbing yourself for later on in your stint. Sure, you got new tyres now, but then at some point you're going to have old tyres when everyone else has got new tyres. So Harper has to take advantage of it now while he's got these new tyres, because it won't be long before he is the one with the old tyres and everyone around him has the new ones. Really feel the pain.
Yeah, that he will.
Whether a mistake or traffic. He's got about a second on this lap, and I can tell you why. He's made a big mistake at turn 1.
Oh, all right. Let's see then.
Track
Going
doesn't
into
go out
turn
this far.
1.
Apex back there somewhere.
I mean, it
Don't
used
really
to go out
motocross.
that far.
It did used
No.
to. Back in the 60s.
Yeah. Christian Challoner bringing back a bit of history there.
The old pit
Yeah.
lane was over there, actually, on the old main straight, the front straight.
Yeah, indeed. And it's, yeah, indeed, motocrossing across the curbs here, which are actually quite brutal, Jay. You know, this circuit In an era of racetracks where the majority of curbs are, flat or at least have a low profile, the curbs here at Sandown, they really put the suspension through its paces. I mean, that sawtooth curb there obviously is the exception that proves the rule. Just about every other curb here, especially on the exits, you really got to be careful not to mount them.
Yeah, and if you do mount them, you've got to mount them in a certain way. You've got to get to the flat point of the curb as opposed to the angle part of the curb. So this curb right there at the exit of 212 is the angle where it's painted, but if you go out far enough, it then becomes flat concrete again. So you can use the curbs if you use them in the right way. So that's a skill all in itself within these cars, and a lot of these drivers don't drive these cars. So psychologically, they're driving away from the curbs. You're not bouncing the car off the curb because you don't do that in pretty much any other car on the iRacing service. So it takes a whole new different style of driving and a whole new different mindset of tackling the track to be able to get pace out of these cars.
Yeah, and if you can nail it, it really awards you in terms of lap time. I mentioned earlier that Sandown is a circuit that is dependent on traction and power. Obviously, all drivers are driving effectively the same car, so there's no difference in terms of power output between these things. But if you can put that power down in a really good way out of these slow corners, you net yourself buckets of time.
100%. Interesting thing too, we've finished 40 laps, or our leaders have finished 40 laps, so we may see someone come into the pits at the end of this lap or the next lap. Yes, as we said before, most drivers can get 42 laps out of the tank. Drivers at fuel safe may get 45, but it's not necessarily worth it. It's the reverse of what we were talking about before. Expected. A lap 40, here comes Morton, here comes Banks, here comes Dan Stevens. 40 laps seems to be the magic number, and I think that's probably the smartest play. Get the race up as even as possible, you get even tyres throughout your runs.
Yeah, and I think in terms of net time lost or gained, it's probably the fastest strategy as well. Kotska also making his way in. Garen Batten's in there too. So all of those drivers from Banks, Morton, Stevens and Batten, they will be battling directly with each other on the exit of the lane. Now, one thing that I did notice is that Sam Harper's pit stop was 21.8 seconds. Now, that is a pretty quick stop, all things considered. He has gained track position on all of those cars, but we get a better idea of what the pit stops are actually going to be like with these guys who have just come out. Morton, 41.2 seconds. Dan Stevens, 42.4. Garen Batten, 38 seconds. So, yeah, that's interesting to see there from Harper.
When you talk about that, I've just realised I've got a spreadsheet. We've been working on fuel numbers in regards to these cars for a long time. One thing that scares me is that he may have to make an extra pit stop because he hasn't put enough fuel in the car to cover that. So I'm just going to do some quick maths while you keep talking, Reese.
Exactly. I'll leave you with your spreadsheets and your calculus. Y equals mx plus c. In any case, bit of an interesting call there from Harper. I don't know if he necessarily intended for that pit stop to be as short as it was. Maybe he's trying to focus on track pace, trying to keep track position as these fresh pitters start making their way through. Harper having made up places on Nick Kuhn and with Justin Morton, now rounding him up on fresher rubber still. More cars in the pits meanwhile. Peterson and Challoner, those are the drivers who pitted out of third and fourth. Our leaders still have yet to come in, and I think this is going to be the end of the stint for the Jinx Shifters cars. Loxton, does he come in? No, he stays out another lap. These guys are going to be stretching the first stint out to its full length.
So these fuel tanks are 111 litres capacity. Was Loxton just given the position there?
Oh.
Thomas Hinz, has he not pitted?
No.
Out of fuel.
Oh, yeah, he's slow. Oh, no. What's going on here with Brett Loxton?
I think if you forgot to come into the pits, if you're just psychologically driving on and going, oops, I was supposed to pit then.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, like, I just said, I would have thought that they pitted at the end of the previous lap, but I mean, Thomas Hinz, it seems, is totally fine at the moment. Maybe running behind Loxton, he's just been focusing on saving fuel, and
remember his pace was a little bit less throughout most of that stint. Loxton's lost 10 seconds by pitting on the previous lap, so yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, that is. Well, Hinsey comes in. Loxton is able to make it to the end of the lap, and I would expect that he'll make his way into the pits now.
Has to be missing the pit lane and not having any more fuel in the car.
Yeah.
What I was about to say is these cars have a 111 litre fuel tank. You'll flow into the car, so when you put the fuel into the car, it fills the car up at 2.35 litres per second. So every second you stop, add 2.35 litres. So the guys that are doing between 40 and 45 second stops, they're getting anywhere from 95 to 105 litres of fuel. See that Loxton and Hinz are probably going to stop at 47 seconds to get close to that 111. That time from Sam Harper, 21.7 seconds. That's only 51 litres. Now, that doesn't quite add up to the amount of fuel that he needs. If he puts in 111 litres at every single stop, I think he's still short 10 litres of fuel. He's got to save a lot of fuel in his stint to make it home.
Yeah, well, don't forget that Harper pitted earlier anyway, so he wouldn't have used as much fuel when he came into his first stop. He didn't?
Oh, I don't think he's filled it up when he got in the pits. He's only taken 21 seconds of fuel. He only pitted 7 laps before everyone else. 8 laps before everyone else, so...
There's a lot of question marks over that.
Something to keep our eye on over the next hour or so of racing.
Yeah. Well, more cars in the lane. Looks like Nathan Dowd has just completed his first pit stop. Christian Abate and Brenton Foster in the box as well. Hinz and Loxton have come out ahead of the rest of the field, and they've had such a margin over everyone else that there's really not much to worry about for them. Loxton has still come out ahead of Travis Walling, but not by much. The gap for the lead is up to nearly 13 seconds here. Thomas Hinz will control the race from this point on, unless Loxton starts putting in super quick laps, but he'll burn through his tyres very quickly then.
Put on about 109 litres of fuel, so that tells you how little fuel there was left in the car when he brought it.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing would have been just about coughing on the way in.
I'm not sure what's happening with Sam's strategy here, but if it works, it's massive. But I'm scratching my head trying to work out how it can work for him, so we'll try and work that out. You can let us know in the YouTube chat as to your thoughts on what's happening strategy-wise. We'll take that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a collaborative effort. I'm still trying to figure out some kind of answer for what Sam Harper is doing, and I'm just not coming up with anything. We'll focus on that later though, because it looks like Christian Challoner is fought past Josh Thomas down in 23rd place. Challoner, of course, in 4th and trying to catch up to Travis Walling up ahead. Going very deep into Dandenong Road, and he's got Cody Richardson next car up after Brian Bennett. And those are drivers lapping in the 20 to 21 positions. Suggestion from the Majors Garage concerning Sam Harper. He's drunk. I mean, that is a possibility.
seen him go for a drink throughout the race, so I have been
No.
keeping one eye on him. So
Doesn't
Tyrone
look like
Walsh-
he's been on the beers.
No, not yet. It is an Australian race, so it is customary that you do get on the beers, especially if you're in Victoria. You need to get on the beers. 47 laps completed for Tyrone Walsh in that first stint.
Yeah,
we were
right.
told that 43 was about the limit, so he's done a very, very good job. Shearburn coming in at the end of 46 laps. It's, two very, very good stints for Walsh and Shearburn. Well done, guys.
Yeah, indeed. Managed to stretch that mileage out. Of course, an element of that would have been the mistakes that we saw them make. They would have spent some time with the engine at low revs and not accelerating. So that's probably given them a few extra milliliters here and there. Morton, meanwhile, having to fend off Dylan Gray for P6. And Morton had a quicker pit stop than Gray, but Dylan is aggressive through the last couple corners. Morton able to hold on to that. Of course, Justin, one of the drivers racing in VR here, so the immersion is going to be massive for him. And you see that Gray is being very impatient to try and get past the lapped car, the number 11 of Brenton Foster. I mean, goodness me, that SLM Mustang is looking quick, isn't it? It is all over the place in every braking zone, trying to unsettle Justin Morton.
It's going to take a little bit more than that to unsettle him, though. We've seen him throughout the series. He doesn't get flustered. Even when he has an incident or is involved in something, he doesn't get flustered at all. He just, the only time he shows emotions when he's crossed the line to finish a race.
Yeah, exactly. He's in full-on focus mode a lot of the time, even with a car that is slightly damaged. Of course, you mentioned earlier, Jay, that he might have been able to get that rear wing repaired in the pit stop. It looks like that is not the case. But as we know from many years of broadcasting races in these cars, losing the rear wing is not the end of the world.
Yeah, purely a visual thing in regards to the car doesn't do anything in regards to the scene, in regards to physics and things like that. So that's a positive to take away, but it doesn't look as pretty, does it? It's not a nice long cap. Ray can get this move done though, because he definitely has more pace. He just can't quite find it at the right spot.
Yeah, he has to focus on the power, focus on getting good exits. I mean, you can see that Morton is probably a little bit more confident on the throttle, and every time I've looked at Dylan Gray, he has made up the majority of his time in the braking zones. So maybe he's gearing up for a move at Dandenong Road. He's not going to be able to get by at turn 6. That's usually the first stage of a move down at turn 9. And even then, he's still not quite close enough. So yeah, I think Gray might have to think about some alternative strategies to try and get past Justin Morton here. Just square off the exit of the corner, get it nice and straight, and then you can use that momentum to try and blast past.
One thing to note as well, have a look at who they're starting to slowly catch up on. Sam Harper on his now 17-lap-old tyres. They're at the point now where they're starting to feel a little second-hand, not anywhere near as good. Guys behind, they'll be starting to feel that their tyres aren't great either, but still at a point where they're usable, manoeuvrable, and can get around the track okay. But last lap by Sam Harper, 108.4, Courtney Ray both with 108 flat. So there's 0.4 of a second difference there. On this lap alone, they've already gained another 2 tenths.
And that could be the opportunity that Dylan Gray is waiting for. Try and get past Justin Morton. No, scratch that. Up the inside. Maybe now. If he can hold the outside through the penultimate corner, that gives him the inside for the last turn. And he's going to keep it in. Nicely done. That's awesome stuff there from Dylan Gray. Nice and clean. Just carried that momentum around the outside of the right-hander. Tight line for the left, and he is through into 6th.
Now he's going to try and hunt down Sam Harper, who has 11-lap better tyres than Harper, so he'll close that gap down fairly quickly. You would think Garen Batten and Nathan Dowd are in a little bit of a heated battle as well. Looks like all of the guys in the NRG cars struggling a little bit in regards to their pace in this second stint. As Nathan Down is closing in quickly. They're in the 7 on car. Very, very quick.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Come from? Been a long morning already.
Yeah, certainly it has. Garen Batten will stay ahead coming into turn 6, but he's a little bit deep. Oh, I think he just avoided getting the slowdown there. That's something the drivers always have to think about going around this place is turn 7, that little right-hand kink on the way down to Dandenong Road. Tarmac runoff there, so you can use it if you run deep in turn 6 or get forced off, but if you want to avoid an off-track or a slowdown, you have to keep 2 tyres on the blue and white curb. So I think Batten was just safe there. Let's see if the move is done into the first turn here. Lovely dive on the brakes from Nathan Dowd. He manages to get up the inside, and it looks like Batten concedes the corner, lets him go. So Dowd makes his way up into 11th. Got a bit of a gap ahead to Dan Stevens in the MFR number 3. That's the top 10 there. It looks to me like Stevens is running a little bit quicker than these guys, so I think he should be safe for now. We'll see what happens towards the end of the stint. Dowd, of course, with tyres that are 4 laps younger than Dan Stevens. That could start making a difference at this point.
Well, the other part of that too is how you traffic, where you get the traffic in holes and past it. So also Stevens are about to get past 19 shooting got very, very quickly and easily. So if they are back too easily, they'll gain some ground on Stevens, but if they have to work hard, they'll lose some ground. Speaking of gaining ground, Sam Harper just got past the 71 of Brian Bennett. Nice and simply gained about 2/10 on the guys chasing him down. In regards to Dylan Gray and Justin Morton, who are closing, but not as quick as I might have thought they would. They're down to a second and a half, down to 1.1 now, but I thought they might have closed a little bit more ground, a little quicker.
Yeah, I would have thought so too. I suppose an element of that is how simple the circuit is. I mean, you do have to push hard around Sandown, and the brakes and the rears go through a lot with all the slowing down and speeding up you have to do in this very sort of stop-start layout. But everywhere else, the tyres aren't really going through much. It's a smooth circuit here at Sandown. I don't know if it eats tyres as much as some other circuits these cars race on do. So, I don't know, maybe Harper's just driving smoothly and preserving a bit more pace in that car for the time being. Don't forget, he is running lighter as well, having put less fuel in the car at that stop.
Very, very good point. The weight definitely plays an impact. It's not as huge an impact on fresh tyres on low fuel, medium fuel, light fuel, definitely lower fuel quicker. Saying that strange little anomaly with this car is that a lot of drivers will actually prefer to put 30 to 35 litres of fuel in the car instead of 10 litres of fuel in the car for a qualifying run. They find that the balance of the car and the weight distribution is a little bit better, having that tiny little bit more fuel in the car, so it balances the car a little bit better. That's a strange anomaly for some drivers that are new to this car and still learning the car. Lock a bit of extra fuel in the car and may help you out in qualifying.
Yeah, that's a good point you make, and that's something I have personal experience with as well. Not in iRacing, but in another sim where we're racing 1954 sports cars. There goes Dylan Gray. Sam Harper trying to get up the inside of Josh Thomas, and yep, there we go. That's Dylan Gray. He sees the opportunity and gets through, but he gets into Josh Thomas and gets into the wall.
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh, that'll be frustrating there for Dylan Gray. He did all of that beautiful hard work to make his way up and get past Justin Morton. Now, all of that work is for nothing. Let's see what happened here on board. So, Harper trying to make his way through on Thomas here, but unfortunately, you know, Thomas was hard into the turn. Gray decides to go for it at turn 2, but, well, yeah, just wasn't far up enough to get it done. I don't know if you could make an argument for Josh Thomas potentially just throwing up the white flag and conceding it early, because I feel like that incident was a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. It was unnecessary. I mean, he doesn't have to give up the spot. He doesn't have to just move out of the way for these guys that are coming through. But the other part of that is they're in a battle, so they're going to try and throw up the inside. They're going to try and take advantage of overtaking a lap-down car. Don't want to be the one that gets involved in their incident and gets involved in their battle. So there's two parts to that. Let's probably look back on that and go, yeah, maybe I didn't need to do that. Doesn't have to get involved, doesn't have to give up the spot. So there's both sides of that. But yeah, probably could have played that a little bit better. Maybe let those guys through and followed him on. Continued on and watched, stuck with those guys. May have found himself a bit more time by following them rather than checking up all people around. Now his issue is he's got a car behind him trying to get position. He had to have let them go and followed them. He would have been up the road and wouldn't have Brendan Foster just driving on by him right now.
Yeah, that's another position loss there for Josh Thomas, down to 21st place. We have 14 cars remaining on the lead lap here. Gavin Barber is the last of them in 14th. So still battles for position through the field, but for a good portion of this field now, it is a case of, well, the furthest you can make your way up is 15th at this point. The pace from the drivers at the front has just been immense. Dylan Gray getting back up to speed, and now he's going to have to try and face off against Austin Peterson. Try and find his way back into 7th spot. Brian Bennett and Miles Crabb there. Crabb was for position down in 9th, so Ray already well back up to speed.
His last lap pace was pretty good. So just see an incident here. This is Shane Vickery. He's had a moment down at turn 3. Just hits it off the curb at turn 2, and how doesn't want to turn when the load of the car, the weight of the car is facing the opposite way. Does a good job of not getting involved with anyone else trying to get back on the track. And confirming he's going again, but car is a little second hand.
It's an awkward spot, isn't it, to have a spin there? There's no runoff at the exit of turn 3. Almost a street circuit-like feel through that section of the track. So if you spin and get into the barrier there, you're not going to be able to get back on track without having to wait for everyone to go by you. If there was a little bit more runoff there, then maybe you'd be able to, but there's a public road that runs right by that section of the track, so runoff extension, not really an option.
Another part of that too is that the tyre bundle there almost propels you back onto the circuit. If you hit that at the wrong angle, you almost end up back on the racing line if you put the tyre bundle with enough force. But very fortunate the angle that he did hit that tyre bundle sort of didn't propel him back onto the track itself. Radio closing in on Austin Peterson, who was himself roiled in a battle with Thomas again. He's racing very aggressively against these lap down cars, the lap ahead cars, I should say.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Trying desperately, and he is by Austin Peterson, but he's run a little deep in turn 1. Peterson might try around the outside of the chicane here, but Gray just fires it in, and away he goes.
Gray had a huge lock-up in straight line turn 2. He was lucky that it didn't end in tears, but on the front's locked. Managed to get away with it. There's a tiny little bit of contact between Gray and Peterson. Peterson was alert to it. Brakes a little bit more aggressively between turns 2 and 3, and Dylan Gray had the spot, probably for the best, because he realises that Gray does have more pace. Now, Peterson has Miles Crabb not far away trying to close in as well.
Yeah, the battle's not over here for the last few places in the top 10. Keep an eye out for Dan Stevens as well, because he is rounding these guys up. There's the view behind. You see the Chickadee number 3. And across the line, we'll get some lap time comparisons here. It was a 109.9 for Miles Crabb, 109.1 for Dan Stevens. Made up bulk time on that lap, and now Crabb has to make his way past Thomas. And a little bit of a spin there for the Kingsman Mustang. Regardless, the move is made, so Crabb has a little bit more breathing room here. Stevens is going to have to stay behind through turn 4, but I would expect he'll be by the time they get to Dandenong Road, and he can continue his run-up.
I think Thomas has burned his tyres, but trying to be probably a little too aggressive in regards to the defending positions. Definitely got nothing left to defend with now, and he's going to come under pressure from the drivers. Ryan Bennett closing in behind him, but that's a nice move from Stevens through. We've got a second to gain. Get up to the back of Miles Crabb, and then you'll have Peterson and Dylan Gray, who hasn't broken away as well. So it's turning into a 4-car battle for P7.
Yeah, well, it might become a 3-way battle for P8 soon, considering Dylan Gray's pace. He just set a 108.6. Still, that wasn't as quick as the cars behind. Gray is... Oh, that's early. Oh, or was it late? I don't know. He just got absolutely smacked in the rear by Austin Peterson, who lets him come back on. Yeah, good on Austin Peterson for doing that. But that was an odd incident. Seems like Gray is getting on the brakes a bit earlier.
Is he worried that he's burned his tyres up, especially after that big lock-up he had a couple of laps ago at turn 2?
Yeah, I don't know.
I reckon that might have been a bit 50-50. I think both were mistimed there. As in, Peterson was a tiny bit late, Gray was a little bit early behind the two, and it made it look a lot worse than it probably was.
Yeah, most likely. Still, that's interesting to see. That's the incident, and I mean, Peterson made the corner, so he was obviously braking at more or less the right point, if a tiny bit late. What sticks out to me there is that Gray was on the brakes very early for the first turn, and now Dan Stevens will see potential to make up 2 spots here, with Crabb and Peterson going side by side in the braking zone for turn 1. There goes Stevens. He sees the door open on the inside, but it was only half open.
He's going to lose the spot himself here, is he? He's got Thomas coming in behind, but just behind him is Nathan Dowd. May be able to get a spot. Garen Batten's in here too, so this is it's taking a big pack of cars.
Yeah, it is. Don't forget, we're only in the second full stint of this race. We've got another 20 laps or so before we'll expect drivers to be coming in for their second dose of tyres and fuel. It's awesome to see how the race just ebbs and flows as drivers make their way through the strategy of a long race like this.
Traffic's definitely playing a factor in it as well, isn't it? It's hasn't been as smooth sailing as a lot of these drivers may have hoped. Well, so it's turning into a very, very interesting one. We approach the halfway point. Sam Harper now feeling the pressure from behind from Justin Morton. Now, my maths is still not great, you know that race, but my maths says that you need about 400-ish litres of fuel to race. Now, it started with 111 litres in the running. Well, let's say 52 just to make sure, so we'll give him 157 litres. Somehow, it's got to fit 240-ish litres in 2 pit stops. The issue is, you can only get 222 litres if the car's completely out of fuel. So he's going to have to make a 4th pit stop, based on my maths.
It's going to have to be somewhat of a splash and dash.
It's 15 laps, still 10 laps down. Needs 30 litres somewhere, and 30 litres is a lot to save.
Yeah, it is. It's practically impossible to save that much fuel around this track. Yeah. The saga of Sam Harper. See how it works out for him. Dylan Gray ahead of Justin Morton still, and seems to have gotten a slight gap over him. But Gray, with now 20 laps on those tyres, I think he was pushing incredibly hard, and now he's paying for it as we see an off at the first turn for, I believe that's Tyrone.
Yes, it is. Now that run through there like that, that's usually what we see in the real world when it's extremely wet. I don't often see drivers go that far in the dry. No,
certainly not. A little bit deep on the brakes there for the SLM Commodore. Excuse me. There we go. Harper coming in again after
he's doing
32 laps.
He's doing 4:30-ish laps.
Yeah. Right, he is committing to keeping the car on fresh tyres as long as possible at the expense of having to come in for an extra stop. Will that be the best way to go about this?
Well, my thinking is that he knows that his pace isn't great when the tyres get to, say, that 35, 37 laps of a stint. So he's decided, well, let's just take the L in regards to track position. You know that we've got the confidence in the car. The other part is the car set up that normally when it reaches like the 40 lap on the tyre that he's got nothing left in the car. So just deciding, well, I need to do something different. We like the idea of someone doing something different, but I'm still confused. 33-second pit stop.
Yeah, okay.
At about 75 litres?
Thereabouts. Of course, tyres and fuel are done in these cars at the same time, so the amount of fuel you put in is the defining factor for pit stop length, unless you're taking a very short splash and dash of only... well, you said it was 2.35 litres per second, and tyres take about 9 to 10 seconds in these cars. So, 9-second pit stop, 2.35 litres a second. It's about 20 litres or thereabouts.
That's about 21. So with that pit stop there, that puts him at about 235 litres of fuel into the car. They've still got 160 odd litres to put in over 2 more pit stops. Means they're about the same length of pit stop again, so around the 33-second marker for Sam Harper. So obviously the positive is he's going to have one more stint where he's going to have those better laps on those tyres. So that's the way to gain some of that time back, but I don't think it's enough for the 30 odd seconds that he's going to do. I could be wrong. I could get proven wrong,
yeah.
and I'd be more than happy to get proven wrong.
Yeah, I'd certainly love a bit of a surprise there. Maybe Sam Harper has an ace up his sleeve that we don't know about.
Probably got a better calculator and maths brain than what I've got, so that might be part of it.
Yeah. Oh, we can keep our eye on the racing still for the time being. Still looking at about 15 laps or 10 to 15 laps before we see drivers come into the lane again. This battle for sixth is still going off at the moment. It's in a bit of a stalemate at the moment. They're in lockstep right now, but maybe there's a little bit of saving going on and we might see a lunge. Meanwhile, I see. Okay.
Went back to
no worries.
Instead of showing the replay of a little bit of a mistake for Gavin Barber, but one thing about a mistake for Gavin Barber is that he feels it a lot more than the driver. So
yeah.
Really feeling the pressure now from sort of moments that he's having. He's got a fair bit of damage inside of that car too.
Yeah, it's been a tough one for Gav Barber. Of course, running that motion rig, so the already brutal curbs I was talking about earlier, like you said, Jay, he'll be feeling every bit of those. Where is he at the moment? He's
14.
Yeah, 14th, and for the time being, it looks like Thomas Hinz in the lead has lapped everyone up to 13th spot. Barber, for position, has Stephen Banks ahead of him, Christian Abate behind. There's big gaps there, so at the moment, all Barber needs to do is keep it consistent and just drive the track in front of him, and he will very likely preserve that spot. Just needs to avoid crashes.
Let's see how curb there through turn 8. Sorry, through turn 7 effective. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought, but if he hits it wrong, it's going to absolutely throw him out of the seat. It looks like he's rather smooth at the moment, rather controlled. Okay. This is the point where drivers start to really feel the fatigue as well. One thing we haven't talked about since the race is the fatigue. Drivers have been in the car for about 80-ish minutes to race start. About the amount that drivers would do in a real world 10 and 500 before they are brought into driver swap. So they're really starting to feel it now.
Yeah, that's the thing that really jumps out to me about this race is the fact that it's a solo race. I mean, back in the early days of Aussie touring car racing, you would see drivers do an entire enduro solo. I think back to Peter Brock in 1979 when he drove that A9X to a 6-lap victory over everyone else in the field, and he was the only driver in that car. Of course, real-life series rules now mandate that you have 2 drivers in every car, and of course we also see it in V8 Scops and the Logitech G Pro Invitational Series too, that as well as in the real world, there are minimum and maximum numbers for laps. The rule generally is, at Bathurst at least, you have to do a minimum of 54 laps, but you can't do more than 80 at once. Throw all of that out for a race like this. Everyone's on their own. Everyone is driving for 500 Ks by themselves. They have to manage all of that solo on their own.
We were talking before about the potential off-track penalties down at this corner. Watch Dylan Gray here. This was just, and I say just, okay. Just got his tyre on that blue and white patch. It's okay, but if you get it off that patch, you slow down penalty. That's pretty harsh. So very, very lucky not to get penalised on that lap there was Dylan Gray.
Yeah, it seems like the pace for Dylan Gray has stagnated a little bit ever since that incident with Josh Thomas. He just hasn't had the sheer speed in that car that he had right at the start. Yeah, I would assume so too. Sometimes all it takes is one slide, but if you make contact with another car and get into the wall, that can affect your confidence as well. It can burn off a bit more of that rubber, and a little bit of a slide there for Gray as he's now negotiating Brenton Foster up ahead of him in 19th position. Foster's in a battle with Cody Richardson in the 164 there. So remains to be seen whether or not these guys are going to make it easy for Gray. They have a long train of cars behind them all fighting for position on the lead lap. So if you're Cody Richardson and Brenton Foster, what do you do?
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in. You much prefer in this sort of situation to not be battling someone. But when you're so close to another car that you're in an actual fight for position with, you really have to think about how you play this. I think the smart play for Foster is tap on the brake a little bit, let these guys through, and then wait for those same drivers to get past Richardson. That's what so he's not going to play it that way. He's going to tuck in behind Gray here. What he's done now is he's got himself offline. He'll find himself in a little bit of trouble now. He's done a good job.
Yeah, that he has. That's another small slide for Dylan Gray on the exit of Dandenong Road. And now Cody Richardson will face off Dylan Gray on the front straight. It looked like the exit was right with the purple Mustang. So I don't know if Gray's going to make his way past Richardson into turn 1. He's still a bit too far back, but he is letting Richardson know he's there. Meanwhile, looks like Brenton Foster's going wide, and oh, this is going to make things a bit awkward here. Yeah, very awkward. That's going to slow up Dan Stevens and give a chance to Nathan Dowd. But fortunately, it looks like they've made it out without much trouble.
Part of that too is you notice that teammates there. That's probably partly why Richardson wasn't too keen on letting Dylan Gray pass too easily. He was trying to help his teammate there, Miles Crab, I should say. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I actually love seeing that sort of stuff. Mind games and the psychological battles that you see when drivers working with their teammates but not in the same fight in the slightest. It's always good to see. And Stevens is getting it past just past the car of Brendan Foster and so Nathan Dowd set up into the block. And as I said, by the time that Richardson gets passed by both Stevens and Dowd, the battle between Richardson and Foster is going to be back exactly as it was.
Yeah, that it will. Bit more of a gap now, obviously, thanks to that awkwardness at this location just a lap ago. Austin Peterson and Miles Crab now with a crucial couple of seconds over Dan Stevens, and it looks like Cody Richardson has been able to maintain that pace. He's not under any attack by Stevens and Dowd for the time being. Keep an eye on lap times for Dylan Gray and Justin Morton as well in the battle for the top 5, because I mean, you mentioned a couple of times now, Jay, Gray working his tyres very hard. He's on 30 laps on those tyres now. Justin Morton on 34 laps completed. But Morton is still running times in the high 108s. It looks like Gray has gotten some pace back. Ran a 10th faster than Morton on that last lap as Thomas Hinz, our race leader, is going to make his way through here. That's on the front straight, and well, Dylan Gray in 6th has only just made his way into turns 2 and 3. So drivers in the top 6 could face getting lapped by the end of the next stint if this pace keeps up.
At the end of this stint, there's a chance. Still got 10, 12 laps left in the stint. You saw that Hinz and Boxton stretch it right out to 44 laps, so there's a chance that by lap 86, 87, that could be lapped as well. So Hinz doing a very, very good job. That's Aaron Batten just ahead of P11. Go a lap down, you'd think, the next couple of corners. You're right now.
Yeah, maybe right now. There he goes. And now is that car behind for position? It is. Tom Abramatis now right on the rear of Mr. Batten. And looks like Abramatis has done a good job of keeping that Norm Beachy tribute scheme nice and clean. That car still has a lovely glint on it that I haven't seen from many other cars in this race so far. Looks like a clean run through turns 2 and 3 for the both of them. The difference will be made here on the exit. It looks like Batten's just been able to get a slightly better run than Tom Abramatis. We're rapidly approaching the second stint of this race as, oh dear.
Richardson.
Yeah, okay. Richardson we saw embroiled in that battle before with Brenton Foster, and it looks like he's just lost it on his own down at Dandenong Road. This is something we've seen a couple of times before, Jay. At the turn-in point, the rear end just goes.
It's a sign that the tyres are starting to go away, aren't they? It's when tyres are starting to say, no, I'm not really enjoying what you're doing to me. Might like to have a little break soon. But the good news is that no one else was involved. It's just a dead still. It tells a little
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out for that.
A little bit too wide.
Yeah, unfortunately, losing the position in the process to Nathan Dowd, just a bit too deep, and Dowd was able to just drive by him on the exit. So Stevens still in the top 10. Not too far ahead, though, of the battle between Batten and Abramatis for 11th. So now they're approaching the end of this stint. We'll see what the lap times are like for Stevens. Maybe he's wondering, should I pit in the next few laps, try and get some track position back.
I can confirm I was talking to Dan pre-race. He was the one that told me that, 43 laps to a stint. 43, 43, 43, 32. And then I asked him, why wouldn't you go 40 and split the race evenly over even tyre stints? Someone that's not even going to stress about it. Brett Loxton, he's making sure he doesn't have the issue with fuel again. Okay.
Yeah, that's relatively early.
Not worry about running out of fuel is very early.
Of course. Well, that's only a couple of laps away from the halfway point of the race. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an even split for Brett Loxton, about 40 laps. Actually, 241 lap stints, it looks like. It's going to be Brett Loxton to the end.
That he's just done, 34 laps.
Yeah. Okie dokes. As into the pits comes Dylan Gray. Looks like he's looking to do the same thing.
34 laps in the stint. So, of course, the track is getting a little warmer. 32 degrees now. Remember, it started at 9 Celsius. Could be playing a little bit of an impact. The interesting thing is the wind has dropped down to nothing as Peterson threw on the crap. That's what we've done. Nice and easy.
All right. Austin Peterson through into 6th spot, and we still keep an eye on Brett Loxton here, who has come out of the pits in 7th. Of course, Peterson making his way into 5th, but that is effective 6th, because Brett Loxton, the only car in the top 10 aside from Dylan Gray, who has taken a stop. So Gray re-emerges in 16th overall. Have a look at the pace here for Loxton. I'm always amazed to see just how much ground is made up on corner exit around this place on fresh tyres. He's going to have to be careful though, because he might stand to lose a bit of time here if Peterson and Crabb decide to stay out for a few more laps. You can already see he's having to compromise himself a little.
Definitely cost him time there in the shoot between 1 and 2. Because I'm a nerd race, that little shoot, you're actually on the throttle for 112 metres. So if you have to get out of the throttle early, that can actually cost you a fair bit of time and speed. So, oh, he's lost even more ground here.
Yeah, having to back it up in turn 6, not able to get past Miles Crabb. This battle here.
Sorry, if he had it backed up earlier there, he might have been able to get the momentum and get the position through turn 9 at Dandenong Road. But now he's not even able to do it down the chute there. Into the final couple of corners. They get it done down the front straight, but that's taking him, what, 11 of the 13 corners longer than it should have.
Yeah, it has. That's unfortunate there for Loxton. Crucial time lost to try and get the lead back for Thomas Hinds, as into the pits comes Stevens and Batten. Also see that Chris Tito is in there as well. Off the lead lap, Cody Richardson makes his way in too. What does Thomas Hinds do from here?
Very, very slow.
Rewind. Oh, Yeah, I've just seen it too. All right.
Yeah, a little scary moment for him. And by himself
Yeah.
as well is an interesting thing. This one.
Yeah, indeed. Out of turn 1, things look all right. Then he switches over and was a little bit unsettled. Catches the dirt on the entry to turn 2 and just runs straight across the runoff area. Serves the slowdown and gets back going, but again, not ideal.
No, not ideal at all. Interesting.
He can afford to.
Yeah, he can. Did lose about 2.5 seconds. But the other side of that is now Loxton is on fresh tyres. They made it 3 seconds loss to Loxton. At 2 seconds on his standard pace for what's been the last few laps. Stephen Banks has come in from position 10 for the lane.
He has indeed, and suffering a couple of technical issues there as well. I suppose a good time for it to happen is in the pits when you're not impacting other cars. Loxton now up into 5th, moving his way past Austin Peterson. And the other thing about Hinz as well is he was enjoying a 12-second lead over Brett Loxton before they came into the pits. That gap stayed pretty static over the course of that stint, ever since Loxton had his in-lap issues coming in for the first stop. So,
polite way to describe it.
yes. But Hinz, I don't think, has to worry too much. Still has a good gap over Loxton. I mean, yeah, Loxton's going to make up some track position here with Hinz continuing on those very old tyres. Now he's going to come up to 40 laps. We are well past the halfway point of the race now, though, so I think Hinz just stretching it out as long as he is at the moment, that's going to give him the opportunity to do 2 shorter stints and keep the tyres fresh, and that might be the key to 100% securing the victory. As Dylan Gray now tries on Christian Abadi, and not having much success so far, but with a lovely exit from the final corner, I think Gray will move past into turn 1.
Yeah, this is the difference again through new and old tyres here. Dylan Gray's just pitted, but yet to make a second pit stop in this race. Apex back there somewhere, but
Dylan Gray was on it.
Well, Gray was on it, but even still, Bardo did not even find the second lane Apex. Mabramadis has brought his number 20 in.
Yep, Andrew Kotska in the midst of a stop now as well.
And Bennett's just finished his.
Looking at pit stop times there. Looks like Travis Walling has made his way into the lane as well.
That's from a quiet race.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't been involved in any battles. He's just been sitting in 3rd place the entire time. Hasn't had to worry about Challoner or Morton or any of those guys as Challoner makes his way through and starts lap 43 of his stint. Yeah, it looks like that's the strategy that a lot of these drivers are going for, is they're trying to extend the first 2 stints out as much as possible, make the second 2 stints shorter. That way they can afford to push a little harder and preserve some pace while making the final pit stop shorter as well.
Yeah. The other side of that is then you're spending a few extra laps on those older tyres, which pace is so extreme in regards to by the end of a stint. So Miles Crabb, we'll compare him at the moment, currently sitting 5th. He is now on his 43rd lap on these tyres. Previous lap he did a 109.7. His best lap is a 108.0, so 1.7 seconds slower on the previous lap to his fastest lap. And those old tyres compared to the fresh ones he had not that long ago. Now as well, Thomas Hinz now has lapped all but 3 other cars in this race. Obviously that'll change once he comes into the pits, but still that shows the dominance of those Henry James Racing cars at the front of the field. Loxton and Hinz doing a great job.
Yeah, you can always count on the HJR crew to pull out all the stops when they get into these cars, and now Hinsey out of the final corner on Austin Peterson, who comes into the lane, and Peterson is followed in by Miles Crabb. Does anyone else decide to make their way in at this point? No, looks like Cody Richardson's already taken his stop, so he wasn't going to make his way in. Crabb and Peterson, they were close out on track. Let's see what the battle of the pit stops is like for those two. Keeping an eye here on Christian Abade. Who's now got Justin Morton for company in 8th spot. Abade, one of the drivers who once again has been out for a while. Thomas Hins still continues on, but Challoner makes his way into the lane after 44 laps on those tyres. I'd expect Hinsey to come in very shortly. Yeah.
I think 44 on that first stint, when he was the second car in the line. I think the lead car this time, so I think it'll be next to which is what Challoner and probably most of that. Dowd's going to continue on. It's like the end of his 42nd, at the end of his 41st, start of his 42nd. Background Stephen Banks having some tech issues, but it's okay, and we'll see him starts his 43rd lap.
We saw Banks blinking a little in the pits earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, the pace that Hins has been able to preserve on those old tyres is fantastic, really. He's been able to continue running times in the low 108s, even on tyres that are probably screaming to be changed. He's got to be careful here coming into turn 6. This looks like an in lap. So, see if Hins decides to peel right coming out of the final corner. There's a pack ahead of him, so I think even at this point, even if he could continue for a few laps, probably advisable to go into the lane, and that is exactly what he's going to do. Drivers have to be careful coming out of the final corner here, just because you're slowing down for pit entry on the racing line coming out of the final turn. Fortunately, no one near Hins behind, so he was able to get that done nicely, but I think we've already seen a couple of points in this race. Drivers in a pack pitting. A bit of avoiding action had to be taken.
And a lot of avoiding action happening regardless of pit stops, hasn't there? There's been a fair bit of concertina effects going on, and lap cars getting involved in the middle of groups that people off guard. Battles continue on. These guys have been at it for a while. That looks like over because Tyrone Walsh has just run extremely wide. Now have a look at this battle. Has this been going on for the entirety of the race?
Something like that. Yeah, Dylan Gray, remember, was behind Justin before this round of pit stops. So somewhere in that process, yeah, Dylan Gray, 36 seconds stopped. Justin Morton, 45 seconds stopped as Austin Peterson and Miles Crabb continue on here. Was Crabb trying to make a move, and then Peterson locking up into Dandenong Road and going off, both of them off the circuit. So that's been a big change in that battle.
Speaking of changes, Reese, have a look at this. Loxton is now ahead of Hins with that undercut. That shorter stop, he's gained the track position back and pulling back. Now remember, he does have to hit for a little bit longer, but the advantage he's got now is he does have more into the race, so he may be able to gain a bit of time back.
Yeah, it's all worked out for Brett Loxton, hasn't it? And remember, it was, looks like Loxton's pit stop was about 8.5 seconds faster than Thomas Hins's one. So, again, it's a case of people trying to push as hard as they can, or push as far as they can on a stint and try and shorten their final stop versus drivers trying to take that shorter stop. Now as Hins goes by Loxton on the front straight back into the lead, this is where the slightly fresher tyres for Hins will come into play. The change is made once again for the Henry James Racing squad. Remember, Loxton's not a regular driver in the Majors series, but Hinz is. So I think part of the reasoning behind all of this is that they want to try and secure maximum points for Hinzy with only a couple of rounds in the championship to go.
And potentially that's the looking around it, doesn't seem a little bit more of a part-time competitor in this series. We've seen him for a couple of rounds. We usually see him for Midway 500. Obviously the Australian touring car rounds, he comes and races every year. He does pop his head in every now and again, but yeah, as you said, Hin's a lot more regular to this series. Quite made all the rounds this season, but obviously back out on track and seeing a bit more regularly in the series. Seeing a bit more regularly going forward in the series. A couple of rounds still to go.
Yeah, certainly hope so too.
7 is still on the way. Dowd finally looking to get this done on Dan Stevens. Right before the pit stops, couldn't quite get it done. Stevens picks a little bit of hip and shoulder. Lose a spot, and here comes Tom Abramatis, maybe to get involved. Quite close enough to get the move, but he's definitely involved.
Oh yeah, he is, and there we go. The door opens on the inside. No, decides not to walk through it. Stevens holds on. Yeah, this is turning into quite the battle, isn't it? Pretty much every position from 6 on back is up for contention in some way. And we can't forget about Christian Challoner as well, trying to vault his way up through this field, up into 4th place now. Stevens, meanwhile, trying his best to work his way through Dandenong Road as two in front of him start to jet away. Don't forget, Stevens and Batten hit it on the same lap. Meanwhile, Nathan Dowd up ahead of Stevens, as well as cars behind. Well, actually, Abramatis and Crab, 7 laps and 5 laps respectively on this stint, so they're not as well placed as Nathan Dowd is. Dowd definitely has the freshest tyres in this group. So there is still potential.
Yeah, still potential. So, a long way left in this race. There's still 7 laps to go when they cross the line. So there's still a lot in this race. I haven't seen exactly what's happening. I can see what Loxton is trying. Deeper ground. Tom Tins. Tell you why, got stuck behind lap traffic.
Okay.
So the only reason why there's that gap now at 2 seconds, purely from lap traffic.
Certainly makes itself known in an event like this as Batten and Dowd move past. Yeah. But that was Batten's teammate that let them through nicely. Chris Yatito. But have a look at Dowd here. He is right on the attack, isn't he? This battle for 8th spot. He's going to try and gear up the exit here. He's just able to carry a tiny bit more speed through the middle of the corner. Isn't quite able to take advantage on the exit. But when the slipstream comes in, you will see that he'll almost be on the rear bumper of Garen Batten, unless he decides to lift off and have another go at another point of the circuit. Yeah, it looked like a little bit earlier on the brakes there for Nathan Dowd.
In that situation there, you can use it as an opportunity to save that dash of fuel and eventually get yourself one extra lap. That's what we've seen from a lot of drivers. And Dowd's done it very, very well throughout this race. He's been able to get an extra lap, or even 2, throughout all of his stints so far. 4 and 45 lap stints for his 2 stints so far. So he's been one of the best at getting that extra lap, 2, 3 out of everything in this race. So smart driving, and he may not get the spot right now, but he'll definitely get it later on when he can get through and make overtakes through the pit lane, the easiest spot to cross with.
Yeah, so this is the question for Dowd. Is he going to take advantage of his fresh rubber and pass Batten and try to get a gap, or is he going to continue to save fuel behind? I guess
I don't know if he's
we'll
got
find
the pace
out.
to get the move. This is a mistake with Barber. He just got a little bit too hot. Then he got on the power, Almost looped it.
Yeah, that's no good there for Gavin Barber.
I don't know if he's got the pace to actually get the move done, but he's content just sitting there watching, driving the long race out of this one, saving Will later on. He's doing it very well too.
Yeah, indeed he is. That could net him some big gains later on. There's already been some big gains for him. Up 5 positions is Nathan Dowd. Started in 14th and now well in contention for a top 10 spot. Further up, Dylan Gray still trying to keep Justin Morton behind, and it almost happened for Morton here, who has his rear wing back, by the way. Nice defense from Dylan Gray into the first turn there.
Crew did a good job in that second stop for him. Chris Shearburn also, by the way, has just come in to make his second stop. 46 laps on his second stint, and 47 on the first.
Yeah, I mean, Shearburn has been focusing massively on just trying to extend the stint out as much as possible. So I think that should net him some gains in the final stop. He won't have to stop anywhere near as long as anyone else in his general area. He's still fighting for positions in and around the verge of the top 20. Here is take 2, I suppose, for Dylan Gray and Justin Morton. Again, Gray on the inside of turn 1, able to defend the spot. And not much of a fight back from Morton yet, but we shall see. Morton has tyres that are 6 laps younger than Dylan Gray's. Having said that, Gray just got a massive exit there from turn 4. But again, problem for Gray is tyres are a little bit older, and he is going to be the first car in this duo that comes up on lap traffic. Jake Fox is the car in front of them at the moment, and from what we've seen in the race so far, Fox has been very courteous with letting lapping cars by. He hasn't really been fighting. Have a look at this, though. Nathan Dowd, he's gotten by Garen Batten, and now Andrew Kotska is involved in this despite being a car that's a lap down on these guys. Batten gets back through on Nathan Dowd after that little exchange.
Dowd got to slow down.
Righto. No, he did. Looks like Dowd, well, he finally decided to try and make the move at turn 6, but yeah, he lost it a bit, didn't he? Right in the middle of the corner, and right there. See, he was just outside the curb. If he was like a centimetre more to the left, he would have escaped that. Damn.
And Stevens trying to defend here from Abramatis as well, so they've closed back up. There's about 2 seconds between these groups. And now they're back nearly nose to tail again as Stevens, Abramatis and Crab. And they've got Stephen Banks closing in as well, so it's 2.5 car battle, then 6 car battle.
Yeah, once again, 6th on back is, whoa, Dylan Gray a little bit deep. Oh dear, and look at this. Look who's on the back of him now. That's the leader, Thomas Hens. Makes his way past Justin Morton, and now I think it'll be short work for Hinsey to make his way past Dylan Gray as we keep our eyes peeled on that battle behind with Nathan Dowd and Garen Batten as Sam Harper comes in for his 3rd stop. Yes.
It's the shortest of the 3 stints he's made. There goes Hins through.
And with that, Thomas Hins has lapped everyone up to 5th spot. That's an incredible run from the Henry James Racing number 62. Dowd still not done with Batten. We saw him, lifting and coasting earlier, but now he is truly on the attack, trying to get it done on Garen Batten, who I got to highlight has had a really good middle stint of the race. He did lose out right at the start, despite his fantastic getaway from the line, but I think in the middle of the race, Batten's really come into his own as this fight is by no means over. Tom Abramatis, having made his way past Daniel Stevens earlier on this lap.
Stevens has got a slow down penalty as well.
He has, and that could give the position to Miles Crabb. Stevens slows right down at Dandenong Road, and that backs up everybody behind. Andrew Kotska right in the middle of all of this is a lapped car, as well as Brian McGreevy. This is how it was done. Oh, yeah. So that's how Abramatis got by.
Explains a fair bit about that whole battle there, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it does. And it shows how long it takes to clear a slowdown if you're right in the middle of a battle too. Stephen's not done here. He's trying to get past Abramatis, but now Miles Crabb on the attack as well. It's that old issue of when you're in the middle of a pack, do you defend or do you attack?
How do you do both without losing time? The middle car in these 3-car groups is usually the worst spot to be. So Miles Crabb's in the best position to gain potentially 2 spots. Abramatis could very, very easily lose 2. Speaking of that, Stevens could just lose 1.
He certainly could. That started with hitting the curb in turn 8. And that's one of the very brutal curbs that... yeah, 243 now. He's having to deal with quite a bit, isn't he? And not too far behind is Stephen Banks now, who's been steadily making up time on Stevens over the course of this last few laps. You can tell that Dan has pace in that car and he's trying to take advantage of it, but it's not been going 100% smoothly for him in these last 3 or 4 laps.
No, definitely hasn't. Just quickly, we'll talk about this race. We've seen this graph before, but I don't think we've ever seen it move like that.
Yeah, that's looking a lot more wavy than I'm used to. Usually we see it, you know, like a steady rise or a steady drop, but yeah, it's gone up and down a few times.
Currently the track temperature 31 degrees Celsius. Air temperatures stay very static, 18 degrees Celsius. Beautiful late winter's day in Melbourne. Plus there's no rain. Late winter's day in Melbourne. Hashtag soon.
Yeah, at some point.
Nothing to me. Yeah, the wind was also picked up too, Chris. Remember the last time we looked at this, the wind was at 1 kilometre an hour. It's just at 14 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, these are some of the most varying... Whoa! Stevens with a bit of a problem there out of turn 1, sorry. These are some of the most varying weather conditions I've seen in a while. You know, I've gotten used to seeing, you know, of course, weather is dynamic in pretty much every iRacing session, but the actual numbers themselves don't tend to change all that much over time. And if they do change, it's usually very steady and over a long time as well. But yeah, there's a lot of variance in these weather conditions here today that I'm not used to on the sim.
I'm loving seeing it, and I think that's probably why we're starting to see. We're seeing it a lot at turn 1 more than anywhere else. Over maybe the last 20 minutes, how many drivers have broke themselves and run wide at turn 1, then made the mistake at turn 2? The wind is blowing in that direction. So the wind, yep, blowing sort of across turn 1, angled across turn 1. So as they're braking and turning in, they're picking up a big pocket of wind. It's just forcing them wide at the apex of turn 1.
Yeah. Just a little bit too much of a variance in the aerodynamic performance of the car, and
the little that it has.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these cars are pretty big. They're based on road cars, but yeah, any little bit of change in wind direction can affect how a race car drives through a corner. Keeping an eye here on Brett Loxton now, who's coming up to put Dylan Gray a lap down on 2nd place. And looks like Dylan Gray is...
Thomas Hinds did he? Almost, and his race ended.
Wow, all right.
This is Jason Lottridge. That's Thomas Hinds just tucked in right behind him.
Okay.
Makes a mistake.
Hinds no.
Just gets by, and then Loxton, bang, makes a little bit of contact.
Okay. So Loxton had already made his way past Gray at that point, and he's gonna have to do it again. Hang on, is that Gray even further ahead? It is. Man, Loxton has not had a good last few laps, has he? That's Christian Abade that he's just made his way past.
Lost about 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds with that incident, so he lost a fair bit of ground.
Yeah, righto.
Lottridge did a very good job. Did everything you want a driver to do when they have that sort of issue. Hold the brake, don't move, wait for the track to clear. Just unfortunate where the car finally stopped, right where the driver's exit that corner, and you can see there is a fair bit of damage to the front right-hand side of that car. So it's pretty bent up over that front wheel, so he'll need to take his spare car at his pit stop. Remember, he's on an alternate strategy from Thomas Hinz to try and get track position.
Yeah, he is. And I mean, those incidents that he suffered are certainly not going to help out with that. So,
by the way, one thing we did miss in that too is we are past the magic lap. And now in laps.
Yeah, we are too. And judging by the pace of the laps, I'd say we have a little bit over an hour to go.
We're just about to hit 2 hours of race time as well.
Yes, we are. Sandown 500 usually runs about 3 hours if it's safety car free, which this one is definitely going to be.
It's one thing we can guarantee, no safety cars in this one.
Yeah, no manual safety cars in the majors yet, anyway.
Except for the 24.
Yeah, of course. That's the one where they pull out all the stops. Love the majors 24.
Great to be a part of that last few weeks.
Certainly has. Dan Stevens now continuing a stint that has probably not gone his way. Stephen Banks has rounded up to the back of him here, as I'm seeing Lottridge in the pits. Looks to me like that spin that he suffered. Yeah, that was when Loxton got into him, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think he went another lap. Decided then the next lap to come in and introduce 34 laps since his last pit stop. But one thing I want to comment on, which is an amazing effort from the entire field. We are 105 laps into the race. Every driver gets a spare car. How many do you think have used one?
Oh, the number's probably single digit. Wow.
And no retirements. Now, I don't think we can ever say that about a majors race.
Yeah, me either. Like, I'm used to at least a few drivers being out by the halfway point in a majors race, but the Sandown 500 has been awesome for drivers preserving their cars and continuing to make their way through. Stephen Banks, meanwhile, saw him have a bit of a slide there behind Stevens. He's facing up a bit of a run here. That is Austin Peterson trying to make up the place and trying to hold the outside of turn one, but it's difficult to do. Still keeping his foot in it, but yeah, he has to give it up for now. Yeah, that was well executed from the both of them.
Now, my thinking in my own head, to speak out to fix, no surprise. Interesting driver in that list of drivers that have used their spare car. Brett Loxton has used his spare car already. So if he has damage to his car from that incident, he doesn't have a spare left. You can see he's got damage. Is it superficial damage? Probably. His lap times, last lap he was half a second slower than Hinz, but he also has 10 lap older tyres. So, yeah, this is an interesting phase of the race. I don't think Loxton is any pressure of losing second position. But the fact that he has damage and he's already used his spare, he has another incident like that, it doesn't take much for that damage to become intensely bad.
Yeah. Fortunately, he doesn't face any problems from the dog bear number 19 of Nick Kuhn, who lets him go into turn 6. Loxton keeps the car stable through Dandenong Road. And that is the gap there. Hin's just making his way through the last couple of corners now. The gap for the lead at about 5.7 seconds. And Hin's goes fastest on track there, 107.92. 108.1 for Brett Loxton, who still holds the fastest lap overall at 107.17.
And for those that are wondering why we call that corner Dandenong Road, it's not officially known as Dandenong Road. See here. That road that goes in the left of screen there, where that road comes from, that is Dandenong Road. So that's why that corner there is called Dandenong Road, because if you were to continue driving on straight ahead through the fence, it's the road you'd end on. So that's where that corner got its name. And interesting, you can see, around we were talking in the pre-race,
yeah,
at the old track, you can actually see some of the asphalt, one of the old curbs, still lives on the middle of the track, even though that 40 years.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And that 1984 World Sports Car Championship layout still has a big legacy around here in terms of how you need to attack the tracks. That curb that we saw...
right there.
Yeah, exactly. The curb I was talking about before in turn 8, that is a leftover curb from the old layout. And you also see over here the entry to the hairpin that took you onto the infield. Of course, the drivers don't go anywhere near that curb now, but the curb down at turn 8, they do. Yeah, they are. But yeah, the curb down at turn 8 is certainly one to watch out for, and it has been since 1984. There's obviously no trace left of the routes that the original circuit took. Down at turns 1 and 2, obviously no trace left of the old pit straight. And of course the track took quite a different route in the latter part of the lap. There's no trace of that left at all, even on satellite imagery.
It's us getting out nerd on for those that are wondering why we're talking about that. It's kind of Rex's wheelhouse, racing track history. We could talk history about racetracks for hours.
We should start a podcast.
You know what the funny thing is? I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that sounds like we could turn that into a podcast.
Yeah. Maybe we should do it. Oh, no. There is a motor race going on, let's remember. That is the Forge Energy car of, is that Stephen Banks? Yeah. Oh, dear. Bit of a spin in the first turn there, and that has unfortunately put him a bit further back now. Doesn't seem to have lost all that much time, all things considered, but it was an attempt on Miles Crabb to get into 12th spot. Unfortunately, it looks like Banks hit the... it looks like Banks hit the curb on the inside of turn 1, and that sent him a little wide into Crabb, which then spun him. Doesn't seem like it's hurt him all that much, but still, it's more time that he has to make up, as that is a Mustang in the wrong place. Josh Thomas, who's had a bit of a tough race so far, did manage to get the start of the race damage we saw in his car repaired, but it's been rough. Quite a few drivers here. Let's see what happened here. This is Stephen Banks making his way up the inside of Miles Crabb, and yeah, once again, that's a curb that you don't want to hit too hard. So Dylan Gray versus Justin Morton for P5. Looks like Gray hasn't gotten away from Morton much. And for all of the problems that Dylan Gray has suffered throughout this race, still in a good position. Remember, Dylan started in 10th spot. And he's been largely consistent despite a few errors. And now he's doing a pretty good job of keeping Justin Morton behind him. In terms of lap times, it looks like Morton is faster by only a little bit. Took a 10th out of Gray on the last lap.
That's probably just tyre life as much as anything else. Remembering that
Yeah.
Gray pitted, 6 laps earlier, so that's really the only difference between them is tyre life. Which
Exactly.
is going to give the advantage to Morton in that he's going to be able to pit later, which means he will have fresher tyres for later in the race. That could be a big advantage for him.
Yeah, but like every strategy decision, there's two sides to the coin. Think about it from Gray's perspective. He pits earlier, gets an undercut, and that will give him a little bit extra track position to work with. So maybe in the final stint, he could drive a little bit easier, save the tyres to fight back against Morton at the end.
Some interesting strategy games that are going to play out in the next 15 laps. When do you pit? I think if I'm Morton, I follow Dylan Gray in. When Gray comes in, follow him in. Doesn't matter what happens then because you're going to end up putting in less fuel regardless. So going to be a big advantage. I think he just follows him straight in. That would be me. Because then you're going to get, what, 7 seconds of track position. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, true. Still plenty to think about with 48 laps to go in the Sandown 500, round 8 of the Majors Series. This is the Pacific region. The Atlantic region will be broadcast tomorrow, I believe, by our friends at Global Sim Racing Channel.
And ready on TV.
Yes, ready on TV as well.
Picture at the moment, we've got 2 battles in position there between Gray and Morton, which we've been watching for the last few laps, but that's Abramatus and Peterson that have closed up their battle as well, so they are continuing to fight. So just drone around for a little explore while we were reading those drone shots before and realise how detailed they were. Some things I said, and I just found a little cafe that you can go to the grandstand to sell some of this food. There you go.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, it's always fantastic seeing the level of detail iRacing put into trackside objects. I saw a post on the iRacing subreddit a few weeks ago when the new scan of Circuit Zandvoort was introduced to the sim, and the portable toilets around the circuit actually having the logos of a local company that does those services in the Netherlands. They really do pull out all the stops to make these tracks as detailed and immersive as possible. The laser scanning is just the start.
Is it the closest travel? Which one's it? It's now into the Sandown program. Both probably the same distance away from me, but they are both. You didn't realise as well that the sand during horse racing. Which is why you see a few things that may confuse you when you actually start looking at some things, but that itself is 100% right in regards to how it looks on race day. Now that I've found it, Reese, I can't find it.
Oh, the cafe. Okay, so educate me. What are the things around the track that clue it into being scanned during a horse racing weekend? Because I'm not sure what to look for.
Straight away, there's very, very interesting. There's Peterson and Abramatus.
Change for position there.
Right there.
Okay.
Mounting yards for the horse racing weekend. Track.
Ah. Okay. So those
Actually,
taken down on race weekends.
Yes. Yeah. Our weekend.
Ah.
See. Oh, horses go and finish after their race.
Ah. That's really cool.
This way. Booth, where can I find it? Yeah. It's gone. I'll have to find it again.
It's disappeared.
Yep, it's disappeared on me.
The battle's still on, meanwhile, between Dylan Gray and Justin Morton for P5. These are the first cars a lap down. And it just seems to me like Morton is, despite having the fresher tyres than Gray, he's not been able to gain that much on him. They've stayed in lockstep in this battle, same distance apart for a while now. Haven't seen much that belies an attack by Justin Morton for the time being. So two things that could be happening here. He could be just running behind Gray in the slipstream and saving a bit of fuel to shorten his final stop even further. Alternatively, he could also be just saving his tyres a little bit. I would say that the former is probably a more accurate assumption, though. Let's see if there's any move here, as Gray is certainly defensive, coming down to turn 6, but you see that Morton is not on the attack there. He lifts off early into turn 6. That is 100% fuel saving.
Smart as well. Smart to do it now. Easy to fuel save point than to wait a little bit longer. Save, so clever. This point. Yeah, no, still too early. I mean, may be able to pit at this point, but I don't know if he'd want to yet. One thing I will say is Dylan Gray's very aggressive on the flash button. He's letting everyone know that he's coming along very, very early.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dylan Gray's been no stranger to the headlight flash button. So Josh Thomas will be alerted right away. Of course, you can always assume that drivers are running their F3 black box. I know that it's often a bit of a meme that drivers aren't using their relative, but in the Majors series, the drivers are all clued in, and I'm pretty sure they know what the best practices are with regards to that.
It's been something else that is 100% accurate race weekend.
Yeah. Ah.
And trying to get the good shots up the horse racing tower. Front straight.
Nice. He's pointed in the right direction, isn't he?
See a bit of action at the... So...
That you do. Sandown's a really comprehensive facility, isn't it? It's a shame that it's likely to be going in the next few years. It's been a real centerpiece of motor racing and horse racing in Melbourne for a very long time. I mean, it was a horse racing venue for a long time before it was a car racetrack as well.
Yeah, and then the change to the car track when they built that new infield section was actually come from an attempt to get the Formula One to Melbourne back before Adelaide took Formula One in the 80s. That's where that all came from. So that was something I was shocked about. This facility has had, and there's such a rich history within international motorsport back through the 80s, the early 90s, and then Australian touring cars for as long as it's been open. It's an incredible facility. And if you're wondering what we're talking about with it going. There's been rumours for a long time that the Melbourne Turf Racing Club that owns the facility has been looking to sell Sandown land that can be developed into housing. There's a lot of restrictions on this facility when it can host motor racing and things like that. There's a little moment there. That's Thomas. A couple of moments when lap traffic's come through. He's managed to get away with that okay, and Morton did nice. Also pit stops starting to happen, but particularly, yeah, this facility is rumoured that 2025 or 2026 it will cease operations for car racing and potentially for horse racing as well. They've actually started to move a lot of the horse racing facilities to other horse racing venues in Melbourne. So the writing appears to be on the wall, but fingers crossed it can stay open for a little bit longer. But yeah, the restrictions on the track in the real world now, they're only allowed 5 racing weekends a year, which is very sad.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have a racetrack that's gradually encircled by suburbs. I mean, it's a story as old as motor racing itself, at least in the last 30 or 40 years. There's plenty of racetracks, especially in the UK, that have had to really change their way of operating because of noise complaints from locals as new houses are built around the area. And it's also happening a little bit in Perth as well with Wanneroo Raceway. I mean, the Perth's northern suburbs have been extending for a really long time, and there's new houses getting built all over the place and starting to get closer and closer to Wanneroo. And going back even further to you know, this is the Sandgroper and me speaking, WA's original high-profile venue, Caversham Airfield. The track is still there, and it's designated a Bush Forever site, so it can't be developed, but there are suburbs that have come up all around it, and it's basically almost a whole city all of its own now. You know, I took my mum up there a couple of months back just to show her how much it had changed, and she was like, geez, I remember when these were just country roads. Pit stop now for that is Justin Morton.
I'm a little surprised by that, because Dylan Gray's continued on, but I'm guessing he's going to really try and undercut him here. Get the fresh tyres on the car. Remember, we said he doesn't need to put as much fuel in the car, because he will have some carryover fuel at the moment, so he shouldn't need to fill the car up as much as we'll see Gray put in when he comes in. Brett Loxton has made his pit stop. He's done 43 odd seconds of fuel. Interestingly, he did go a lap down when he made his pit stop, so now only 3 drivers on the lead lap. Kim's obviously the leader, and Walling and Challoner still on the lead lap 4 now. Morton away.
Yeah, there he goes. That is a pit stop of 32.8 seconds. Should be enough to get him to the end. What does Dylan Gray do?
Of fuel is about 80 odd litres, which is about 1 minute.
And Gray immediately responds.
I think Gray had a choice there.
No, he was...
third lap, so he was pretty much at the end of his load. Nathan Dowd also in as his 2 pit stops now happening. Probably the next 10 or 12 laps, we're going to see almost everyone in. There'll be a couple of drivers that may be able to push it a little bit further. Shearburn will still be able to go on. One to watch is going to be Sam Harper. Remember, he's on an alternate strategy. This is 25 laps in his 4th stint. Going to make 1 extra pit stop over everyone else in the field, probably in about another 8 or 9 laps time.
And he's still managed to keep himself in contention for a top 10 position, hasn't he? That's a lot of... that looks like a big lockup for someone. Question is who? Oh. Okay. Jason Lottridge has had a rough race himself, hasn't he? Seen a couple of occasions where he's lost control of his car and been involved in incidents with others. What's happened here? Car coming out of the pits ahead of him. Was he caught out here? Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, okay. That looked like... was that Jake Fox? Yeah. So almost rear-ending the 08.
Did it gap? Justin Morton's got on Dylan Gray. I thought it was going to be about 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Pretty close to it.
Yep. Oh, but that's a little deep there in turn 6. He might end up losing some of that time here as he gets used to the car on fresh tyres again. Lock up ahead of Gray, and Christian Challoner makes his way into the lane too. And Loxton will move on past.
Barber in as well. When does Hins pit? Probably another 5-6 laps. It's on the current dynamic that he's gone with. Have a look at it, he's just behind Hins. No traffic around at the moment. Brett Loxton, but have a look at that damage, could not get fixed in the pit stop.
No, it couldn't. So he's still carrying it. Maybe the damage is so little mechanically that Loxton just figured it wasn't worth repairing.
Potentially, yeah. Or he just let whatever could be fixed get fixed and just drove away when the actual pit stop was finished. Which, I mean, most of the drivers in this series would do, unless they can feel that there's physical damage. A lot of the drivers do at this point, though, if they've got those little bit of damage, little bits of damage to the car like that, they'll just take their spare car at this point. It feels like the sort of race that you're not going to have to stress too much about getting involved in tonight.
Yeah,
wrong with that, though. There's a commentator's curse if you ever heard it.
Be the biggest one of all time. Yeah, there are a couple of battles out there. Obviously, there's the battle for the lead. There's potential for that. There's also this battle here between Peterson and Abramatis for 5th spot now. But remember, both of these drivers have yet to come into the pits. They actually might come in now, considering 40 laps complete for Peterson. Yep. Abramatis will follow him in.
Yep, perfect. I think Abramatis was going to go an extra lap there and then decided, no, I'm just going to follow him in. And this is going to be a true race off pit road too, because they're almost identical on strategy. So has Abramatis been able to save a lap of fuel, or Peterson, while he was behind, did he get to save a little? This will be an interesting little phase of the race here to watch.
Yes, Sam Harper moves past the both of them into 6th. And there goes Thomas Hins on his way. Looks like Peterson and Abramatis will come out just outside the top 10 here.
Oh, this is real close.
Look at that. Wow. Yeah, they were off at the exact same time, weren't they? 34.8 second stop for Peterson, 35.3 second stop for Abramatis. So looks like Tom lost a tiny bit of time there. They will come out right in the midst of battles for... Yeah, indeed. Aaron Batten trying to make up some time here. He's already been on those tyres for 6 laps. Dan Stevens not a factor in this. He's a couple of corners behind.
How long till Hins pits will come in now? Slide said no. It's confirmed that he's going to continue on. Brian Bennett's just finished his pit stop. 35 seconds, 36 seconds for the final stop. Fastest final stop I've seen so far. Tyrone Walsh only 30 seconds for his final stop. That's pretty quick. Hopefully he's got enough fuel in the car to make it home.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Chris Sheburn, meanwhile, into the lane. So, looks like that's just about everybody in the back half of the field that's completed their stop. We still owed stops from Abate and Foster in 14th and 15th. Sam Harper, of course, we know he's going to have to pit again. And Travis Worley makes his way in too. Now, does Hins respond?
This is his 40th lap on this stint. I would say he'll go another 3. Get to 30 to go. Especially if traffic's going to get out of his way like that. That's Sam Harper coming in with 33 to make his last stop. So he's a full pit stop behind. We've seen a pit stop full service pit stop has been basically a lap.
Yeah.
Just under a lap. So Harper hasn't really lost anything from the extra pit stop. It hasn't really gained too much either. So I'm guessing it's a confidence thing that he's made that ultimate strategy happen.
Yeah, Harper's just been running his own race, hasn't he?
Yeah, and it's worked for him. Kept out of trouble, and he's going to get a decent finish. He's going to finish the race with better tyres than everyone else around him. The 3-second stop, exactly the same as every other stop for him. So it's not a bad ploy if you're looking for that extra confidence in the car and are struggling with pace when it comes to that car performance. It's very I wouldn't be surprised if he said a lot more in the Americas. On the Atlantic split, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another lap in the books there for Thomas Hinz. 42 laps completed there. He and Miles Crabb are the only cars in the top 10 that owe us a stop. Crabb on his 44th lap right now, and I think once he gets that car in, it's going to be feeling a lot better. Hinz, it seems, doesn't seem all that fussed, does he? On old tyres. No. I mean, most drivers, you see that they're struggling for grip and sliding and almost spinning out of slow corners. But Hinz, I haven't seen a single hint of lack of confidence in the rear end this entire time.
If anything, it's been the opposite. He's had full confidence, able to slide the car the amount that he feels comfortable with without over-exciting the tyres, especially through this section here. Being able to get the foot down and use a slide through that section. You'll go for his third lap. Yeah. His stints have all been 43. My brain stopped working. Been 43 laps or 44 laps on the first stint when he had draft.
It's been good running for Hinz, with Miles Crabb now pitting, and looks to me like Christian Abate and Brenton Foster are the only other cars aside from Thomas Hinz who have yet to take their final stop of the race.
How dirty the front of that car is.
Yeah, goodness me. Actually, scratch that. McGreevy is probably going to have to pit again as well, but McGreevy is running second last at the moment and 6 laps down.
He's had to come in for damage there, so that was got stuck in the early on and get out of sequence.
Yes, so he's way off strategy. But yeah, aside from that, Abate makes his way in. Hinzy, let's see if he decides to go for another lap or not. The answer is not. And there we go. Let's see how long this stop is for Hinz, and then we can step aside for a few short moments and bring you the final 30-ish laps of the Sandown 500. Into the lane he comes. And Abate just completing his stop there, with Brett Loxton now making his way through turns 1 and 2. I would assume it's probably going to be about a 15-second gap at the front of the field. Brenton Foster, the only driver in the field aside from McGreevy, who we are expecting a stop from very soon. Christian Challoner will continue on in 4th place. Running pretty good times as well. There goes Hinzy. Stop done. 30.8 seconds. He is surely going to be secure in the lead of this one. Brett Loxton just made his way out of Dandenong Road. So that's the situation for the lead. The battle is going to continue here between Austin Peterson and Tom Abramatis. We'll have picture-in-picture here so you can still follow on with the racing action as we step aside just for a second here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching round 8 of the Majors Series 2023 in the Pacific region.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV. It's the Majors Series, Sandown 500 in the Pacific region. And at the moment, it's looking like it's Thomas Hinz's race to lose up at the front. But this battle between Tom Abramatis and Miles Crabb shows no signs of slowing down. Abramatis is at a steady climb up 2 positions from where he started, trying his best to make up a couple more. He's going to have to pull out all the stops to get up to Austin Peterson, who's just coming into turn 1 now, as these guys make their way past the pit exit. Reese Gardner and Jay Kennedy with you here. And I'll tell you what, Jay, it's been a really awesome race from Thomas Hinz, and he has just gone fastest of everyone. As we see a problem-ish there for Christian Challoner. Too much curb, and that's unsettled the car. Goes deep, and that potentially allows a slight run for the car behind, but that is Austin Peterson a lap down on him, so no change there.
We saw a bit of smoke there when we were watching the battle. Watching here, I saw a bit of smoke ahead, and I had to go back and find out where it was, and that was what it was. It was a little mistake there from Challoner, so it's not all smooth sailing, but yeah, what a lap there from Hinz to get 107 flat. Watson hasn't got anything left in the tyre, so he won't be able to back that up and try and beat that. So interesting now, we'll see what happens from here. Also just noticed something's happened to Nathan Dowd, so while we're getting a little fatigued, drivers are starting to show that fatigue as well.
Yeah, Nathan Dowd, he was doing quite well earlier. Just looks to me like he ran a bit deep at Dandenong Road and off into the gravel trap slightly. Looked pretty stable, slowing down, but just carrying a bit too much speed into the corner and had to slow it right up. So unfortunately, nothing doing in the battle with Dylan Gray for the time being.
One of those incidents, Reese, we'd normally say, yep, we've done that before, but I think that's one that I can honestly say I've never done that before. I also have never done a lap in these cars on this track yet, but that's probably the reason why I've never done it.
Yeah, I've definitely done it, but not in these cars. I believe it was TCRs I was racing here in officials last year at some point. Abramatis versus Crabb. See who gets the fight for P9 in the bag here, with Crabb in the slipstream down the front straight. Just catching the curb. That's a nice run out of turn 1 for him. What I'm noticing is, among the majority of these drivers, they're not using the curbs in the chicane like I was expecting them to. You know, when we were doing the race in Scops, we saw that they were climbing all over those curbs in the chicane, but these guys, they seem to just be taking it easy through that section.
I think that's a fatigue thing as much as anything else. I think that's the drivers knowing that they've got such a long race, there's no point bouncing the curbs. just going to put extra stress on them. Who's that going straight ahead at the Cody Richardson and Tumark Santana both gone straight ahead.
Yeah, righto. That's
a lot of smoke I saw.
That is a bit how you going. Of course, that does have a tendency to happen late in the race at this stage, but they weren't involved with each other. Cody Richardson making a pass, and
Stevens.
Yeah, Richardson just lost the rear, and Santana went off in sympathy behind.
It often happens in those sort of incidents where you've got drivers that are just together, not necessarily touching or anything, but they can often just follow each other when one makes a mistake. So I think that's what it was. They were almost side by side coming into the braking zone, and I think they just outbroke themselves a little. Miles Crab finally gets it done.
Oh,
It's taken him, 8 laps to do it, but he's done it.
Yeah, it looks like Abramatis not quite fighting back hard. Maybe we'll try and gear up for a run in the last 10 laps of the race. That was nicely done there by Miles Crab. Good place to get past is coming into turn 6, taking advantage of the slipstream.
Has got that lead out to 21 seconds now, so the strategy isn't quite
That's
played in the
huge.
favour of Loxton and that alternate might work.
No, unfortunately. Loxton, of course, having his own issues. Unfortunately, getting involved with lapped cars who made mistakes in front and just having a bit more of a patchy race than Thomas Hinz has had. We've barely seen any drama at all for Hinz. That's the reason why he's so far in front.
Well, Loxton's had a lot of drama, hasn't he? He's had that issue with the fuel in the first stop and see making contact later on, so hasn't had it go his way at all, but Hinz has had a lot more smooth sailing in this race.
Yeah, it's been a nice cruise for Thomas Hinz so far. If any of you are curious about the battle between Justin Morton and Dylan Gray, we made a big note about how much Morton gained on the last pit stop, thanks to just having to put less fuel in the car, I believe. Him and Dylan, they have stayed pretty much the same distance apart here, but if anything, I'd say Justin Morton is a little bit quicker. Dylan Gray set a 108.543 on the last lap, 108.489 for Justin Morton. So that Forge number 9 is still looking mighty quick here at the very end.
I think it's just now the difference when Dylan Gray had the newer tyres, they seemed to have better pace through that early stage, but now that they're stabilised and starting to wear a little, the pace has come back to Morton and now they're a lot more even. A 10th here and a 10th there, sure, it might bring them close together, but it's not enough for Dylan Gray to make huge inroads.
Yeah, so I suppose now it's just time to settle in for Dylan and hope that Morton has trouble with lapped cars up ahead. But from what I've seen,
potential.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've seen it plenty of times before. Lapped cars making their own errors in front, and if a lapping car is a little too close, can't take avoiding action, then that will seal it. For the time being, though, I think everyone's just happy that they've made their way towards the final stint of the race. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. We still have all cars who started the race out there and circulating.
It's incredible that every single car is still running in the race.
Yeah. Really is fantastic. And, you know, big shout out to everyone competing here today. To still have everyone going with 18 laps left in a 500k race. And they're all doing this solo, by the way. It's really speaks volumes about the standards of competition and how committed the drivers are to this series. It's really awesome.
Great to see. It's been a brilliant race so far, but there's still storylines that are developing. I just saw Dylan Gray another 0.2 of a second gained Justin Morton. So we were saying that maybe a 10th here, a 10th there. Well, 2/10 is enough to get him there with 10 laps to go. So that hasn't finished that battle. Crab and Abramatus got Garen Batten closing in slowly, but still closing in. Which are just ahead of this group. So Hins is looking at that green and black car. That is Garen Batten in 11th. Just up ahead, those yellow cars. That's Abramatus and Crab. So it's would Hins get involved here? I think Hins will probably back out of it and let them fight it themselves.
Yeah, maybe. Looks like he's not making any big moves to try and get past the number 11 of Brenton Foster, who's running in 17th right now. Abramatus, meanwhile, still chasing Miles Crab, but it looks like Miles has managed to gain a little bit in the last few laps. A bit more space between those cars now. And I think it's all Abramatus can really do to try and stay in the slipstream and gain as much as he can down the straights, because I think once the draft is lost, Crab would ultimately be the faster of the two.
Crab hasn't broken away at all since he got through, has he? He's just been there. So is Abramatus trying to save some tyres so he's got something left to fight at the end? Remember, Crab does have 4-lap newer tyres, so eventually it's all about tyre.
Yeah. Well, we still have 16 laps left. We'll be coming up to 15 when Hins crosses the line here in just a few moments. Bentley does it through the last two corners and put the power down, try and get the best run you can. Looking at most positions gained right now. Yeah, Nathan Dowd up 7 spots. From 14th to 7th, and still keeping an eye out for himself. And a quiet rise up through the field for him, though with a few big moments. Chris Yatito. Saw him involved in a few incidents early on, but seems that he's gotten it together and has kept himself in the running. And Tyrone Walsh up 6 spots. Started in 25th, up to 19th. So good on those guys for sticking it out and keeping it consistent where others could not.
Battle here's also starting to get a little heated. Kenny Richardson just got past Nick Coon. Up into position 22. Now back to 23rd, and Santana in 24th. These guys have been close for a fair portion of the race. I wouldn't say they've been nose to tail all race, but they've definitely been around each other and always seem to find themselves back together at the end of each cycle.
Yeah, it's been a good battle here so far.
I forget. A bit more stable this time.
Ah, yes. So I had a few ebbs and
Something's happened
flows.
to Challoner.
Oh.
Massive damage to his car too.
Oh dear. That's no good there. Should still be safe in 4th, potentially. It's a long way ahead of Justin Morton and Dylan Gray, but something has gone majorly wrong for him. Oh, wow. Okay, wait for this. That's Jason Lottridge behind him and just loses it on the way into turn 1. Nothing Challoner could do there.
Wrong place, wrong time, if ever you saw it.
Yeah,
Oh,
looks
he's
like
still got
Lottridge gently does it. He's off. Oh, this could be a disaster here for Christian Challoner. Thomas Hins, the race leader, coming up on him now to put him a lap down.
There's a replay on the bottom here.
Okay, so this is down at Dandenong Road. And oh my goodness, yeah, that car definitely has some kind of damage here, and Challoner is in the pits. Well, he should have had a spare car saved, yeah. So he'll just get that put on and then move straight back out. Oh, but he's gone up on the jacks. Oh, there we go. He's done. Cool.
Guessing he may have got a fresh set of tyres put on as well. Spare.
Well, yeah,
He's got time to do it, so, I mean, there was no loss there. Again, he comes,
No.
doesn't lose a spot, does go down a lap, but Hey, means he's got one less lap to do, and he may be able to steal the fastest lap away now.
Yeah, he might just. I mean, that could certainly be a statement to make.
Have a look how close Dylan Gray is now.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. This is going to be a fun one. Justin Morton now. The pressure is on for 5th place. 108.2 on the last lap. 108.2 for both of them, actually. So this has been a steady draft up by Dylan Gray. They've got Travis Walling in 3rd, just behind them. He might put them a lap down. Dylan losing a bit of time there down the straight to Morton. Maybe he was expecting Walling to go for the move, but I think Walling knows that there's not much use in trying to blast your way past these cars. He's got a big gap behind a Challenger and an insurmountable gap ahead to Loxton, so probably for the best that he just sits in line and lets these guys fight it out.
What a view he's got for one of the best battles on track at the moment. So
yeah,
why not enjoy it? Not often you get to watch the best battle on track, seat, and not worry about the position.
Absolutely. Gray peaks, takes a little look at Morton, who I think was a bit spooked by that and went slightly wide. Was able to maintain pace through the corner. Gray taking a little bit more curb in turn 4. So that's hurt his exit slightly. And Morton breaking the slipstream, weaving a little bit here. The gamesmanship is already happening. Gently does it into Dandenong Road. Just seems like Morton looks a little smoother through the turns than Gray does. Dylan obviously has been pushing hard on traction and also on entry too. That's where he's made up the majority of his time, but it seems like every time they get to a corner exit, Morton just gets a little bit more of a gap that he needs.
A little bit of an update from Split 2 action. They've had a couple of DNFs, but they've still got 3 drivers on the lead lap, exactly the same as us. It's pretty cool. We're both exactly the same in that aspect. That's a mistake from Morton, though. Dylan Gray can't quite capitalise, but that was a big mistake. A little lock-up. Had to get out of the break. Ran it wide through turn 1. Now, it's pressure from behind. Pressure's coming in thick and fast.
Yeah, he's a bit closer this time. Morton's still trying to break the draft. He only does it once this time. Gets on the line. And Gray peeks out into turn 6. That doesn't spook Morton, though. Maybe a tiny bit deep in Dandenong Road and a slight slide from the number 9. So he is getting unsettled. We only have 10 laps to go now. It's going to be 9 to go for these guys being a lap down. So the pressure is ever higher for Dylan Gray to get this move done and for Justin Morton to defend, as he was a little bit narrow into the first turn. Dylan Gray all over the curb on the exit. This is where Gray seems to make up a lot of his time. It's this first part of the lap. And then as soon as they come out of turn 4, Morton just puts the power down and away he goes.
Gray just had a huge slide coming out of turn 4 there, so that's where he's losing the ground back. He's gaining it all under brakes, gaining it all through the turning and using the curbs like we said earlier. And then he's losing it all on corner exit by just being too aggressive on the throttle. Runs wide again there, loses a little bit more ground because the car's unstable. Then gains it back as soon as he puts his foot on the brake, then loses it all on exit again. He's almost pushing too hard.
Focusing hard on Justin Morton ahead, trying to find a way to get up to him. The start-finish straight belongs to Morton once more as they come to start their 152nd lap. once again, tiny little slide. Oh, both of them had it happen to them that time. Oh, Gray a little deep out of the chicane. Can he square it up for turn 4? Not as well as Morton can, once more.
Morton's getting a really good exit out of turn 4. Obviously, that's the key corner, that and turn 12. If you get an exit out of those 2 corners, almost impossible for the car behind you to pass you. You can get a better exit there. It doesn't matter whether they've got more pace. They can't use it if they don't have the run. So, it's like that's all that's happening here at the moment. Is advantage is in the favour of Morton in the key corners of the track. Not necessarily around the whole track, just those key corners. Again,
yeah.
Better exit.
It's like I said earlier, traction. That's what defines your race at Sandown. Getting the best run out of each individual corner. You can see how hard Morton is working the wheel there. Turn 1 does not seem to be his favourite place on this track.
Happy if he never sees turn 1 at Sandown again. Enjoying turn 1, but a little bit too much power that time. This might be the chance Dylan Gray needs, and you can see the nerves have just picked up there for Justin Morton. He has got nervous as soon as he put his foot on the throttle. Saw him shrug his shoulders like, oh no, I might lose this spot here.
Here we go then, Dylan Gray alongside Morton on the way into turn 6 and gets the move done. But can he get it pulled up for Dandenong Road? Morton makes up a little bit more time under brakes, but it looks like Gray's got him.
Nice move in the end there from Dylan Gray. Was actually quite patient in trying to get the move done. He knew he had a lot of laps to be able to do it. Waited for that one mistake, and Morton hasn't made many. Capitalised when it finally happened. The advantage now, though, is Morton is getting a better exit through those corners. He might be able to get the spot back if Dylan Gray does the exact same thing.
Wow, here we go then. Can Morton fight back? He was a little bit unstable on the way into turn 1. But it's all about the way out of turn 4. Have a look at this.
Before we get to Dandenong Road for these guys, just seen the first mistake all race for Thomas Hinds.
Oh, yeah.
It's not really
Just
that big
pinch
a
the
mistake.
rear.
It's enough of a mistake, though, when you've led every lap, pretty much.
Yeah.
Led every lap since the end of the first pit stop phase, anyway. Well, not close enough yet, but I think he's got enough pace to be able to come back.
Hasn't got much time to do it all, and that was a big slide.
Well, he's just had a little... Much of the wheel there is a bit upset with himself getting out of that corner. Did a big error, big slide.
What he can take away from this, though, is that he's a bit more consistent than Gray when you look at the overall race. So there's still potential for Gray to make a mistake.
See how much it means to Morton. Every single place is so crucial, because remember, he's fighting with Christian Challoner for the championship, so he needs to get that spot back, especially if Challoner's ahead. He needs that spot. So that's why you can see the emotion starting to come out here for Justin Morton. He's starting to feel the pressure of the championship, maybe just starting to slip out of his hands. There's a slow car there. Cody Richardson, he's run wide and hit the wall at the exit of turn 4. Doesn't hold them up.
No drama there. Richardson down in 24th place at the moment, and 4 laps off the lead. See how much ground Morton makes up as we see what happened to Richardson. Just got a bit crossed up over the curb. Good thing he didn't get into the Armco, though, because that seems to be what... Yeah.
Someone did that in Armco and played the start of the real world race this year, so that's why it's time certain.
Absolutely.
You don't have to worry about that in this one, though.
No, we don't. The race starts when it starts, unless there are server issues or something to that effect. Looks to me like Walling behind. He's still not putting up much of a fight to try and get by these guys. So I think he's content to just let them sit there. Yeah. And is it just me, or has Morton gained a little bit more on Dylan Gray this lap?
Yep. Last lap by was a 10th quicker. that exit out of turn 4 definitely was better. Close enough to get a move done, but I think that little bit of pressure might get to Dylan Gray. Remember, Dylan's very, very young, so you can apply some pressure from behind, that being Morton. Maybe able to get there and get the position back. 4 to go when they cross the lines. There's still plenty of opportunities to force a mistake out of Dylan Gray. I've just seen Dan Stevens has had an issue as well. So getting to the end of this race, that's where the issues start to creep in. The fatigue starts to creep in. Drivers start to make big errors.
Yeah, for Stevens, it happened between turns 3 and 4. He's got a bit of front end damage now because of this big slide across the curbs. Not as much grip there on that painted concrete, and into the barrier on the inside.
Well, this could hold up Gray here.
Oh, yeah, it certainly could. Who's that there? That's Brian McGreevy. He lets them go. But now Morton is back in the slipstream of Dylan Gray, and he is piling the pressure on.
So just ticked over 3 hours of racing time. These guys would be absolutely hurting by now. My arms are hurting thinking about driving these cars for 3 hours straight.
Yeah. Tell you what, I wouldn't have been able to cope. Maybe a few years ago I would have been able to,
Yeah, maybe
but
20
certainly
years ago
not
I
now.
might have been able to. Not now.
Yeah.
Struggled swinging a cricket bat for 15 minutes yesterday, so I don't think I could do 3 hours in this car. Morton's getting aggressive now. Contact between them.
Oh, dear.
And you can see the emotion coming through from Morton there. He is not happy with that from Dylan Gray there either.
Yeah, well, Dylan was tracking towards the outside of the corner, and I think Morton just got into the back of him as that was happening for Gray. Let's see another view of that. So Gray was defensive. Morton was late on the brakes and getting alongside him on the way into turn 1. And just see here, there was barely any overlap at all. And from that particular angle, it looks like Gray ran him off the road, but I don't think that was the case.
I don't think so either. I think it was just one of those racing deals that happen at Sandown at turn 1 when someone's pushing hard, aggressive racing with so much at stake, so little time left in the race.
Speaking of so little time left, it is the white flag for Thomas Hinz. 1 lap to go at Sandown. That's 160 complete. And despite that one little error that we saw from Thomas Hinz just a few moments ago, there has been very little to fluster this man at the front of the field. He's always been good in these cars. Whenever the Majors has had a race in the V8s, he's always been there to take advantage. And he and Brett Loxton came to Sandown with a well-prepared setup. They had V8 Scops to run that setup and iron out all the kinks, and they got a very well-developed car for this round of the Majors Series. Just a few more turns to go now for Hinzy. He is a former race winner in this one, and was second place to Cameron Dance in the championship a couple of years ago. And he gets another win on the board here at Sandown. The Sandown 500, round 8 of Majors in the Pacific region, goes to Thomas Hinz. Beautiful job from him. Brett Loxton is going to make it a 1-2 for Henry James Racing in the Jinx Shifters machines. Pole position man Brett Loxton probably would have been hoping for a victory there, but Hinzy will get max points, being the more regular driver in this series. And further to that, Travis Walling with Jay, perhaps the quietest race of them all. He will get a podium out of this.
Too, yeah, podium from that. I think the fact that he stayed on the lead lap with the pace that Hinz and Loxton had. I think that's an achievement all in itself. So well done to Travis Wall in P3. Probably will feel like a win considering what's happened in this race.
Yeah, certainly it will. That's a good points haul for him. And everyone else already coming across the line to finish the race. The celebrations will begin for everyone who has made it to the end. Once again, it's pretty much everyone who has made it to the end. Unfortunately, it looks like we had one retirement in the last 20 laps. Jason Lottridge. Remember, he had that coming together with Challoner in turn 1, where he went a bit too deep into turn 1 and lost the rear. Well, it looks like the car was too heavily damaged to continue from that. Still, 29 out of 30 cars getting to the end of this race is nothing short of incredible. Hinz, Loxton and Walling, podium and lead lap drivers. Challoner will finish 4th ahead of Dylan Gray and Justin Morton. It's a shame that the battle ended the way it did for 5th. Would have been nice to see that continue until the final lap. Nathan Dowd will finish in 7th, gaining 7 positions, with Austin Peterson coming home in 8th spot and Miles Crabb in 9th. Tom Abramatis started in 11th and finishes in 10th.
To the drivers 11th on back, Garen Batten, Dan Stevens, Sam Harper, Stephen Banks and Gav Barber all finished 2 laps down, with Brendan Foster, Christian Abate, Shatito, Tyrone Walsh and Ryan Bennett finishing 3 and 4 laps down. I'll run through the last page where you get set up for interviews if we get any, Reese. Josh Thomas, Mark Santana, Nick Kuhn, Cody Richards and Chris Shuburn all 4 laps down. Andrew Kotzka, Shane Vickery, Jake Fox, Brian McGreevy 5 and 6 laps down. Jason Lottridge finished 21 laps down. But as you said, he was the only DNF and he made it to lap 141 of a 161 lap race. That's incredible attrition for this style of race. Well done to everyone in making it so far.
Yeah, well done to everyone indeed, and we have to say a big fat well done to Thomas Hinz, who joins us in the comms box now for the winning interview. Hinzy, it was a 2nd place start for you versus your teammate Brett, who jumped in for this round. It seems like you guys came to this round with a very well prepared car. You've obviously had at least 161 laps of racing at Sandown already to get this car prepared.
Yeah. Well, obviously we had the scops set up there. I think Brett actually improved further for this, so that was good. He worked on it a bit more and got it a bit more better, really, which was pretty incredible because that scops one was already good. Car was fantastic. Did pip him for the pole, which I was very disappointed in. I was going to do a 2nd run just to pip him because that's how we are. Got to beat each other, obviously. But then I actually missed the last quality session, so I couldn't. So I was like, well, that's all right, I'll go 2nd. And at the start was a bit sort of not really in the groove for the start, and Brett got through, and I had made a little error that let him get away. We sort of, I think he missed his his stop wax and read the fuel wrong, and that's how I got clear there. And just sort of tried to keep it clean and kept the gap. So it worked out pretty well.
Certainly did. It's another great haul of points for you in the championship standings. And of course, we go to our final oval round of the season. Next up, we are doing the NASCAR 87s. So that's going to be a fun one, Hinzy. I'm presuming that, you drove these cars before when they were in the majors last year, I believe. So, should be a fun time.
I'll have to see if I can make it. This is the first round I've done for a couple of rounds, so I think. I'll see how I go. If I can make it cool, we'll see. If I can, that'll be good fun. They're a lot of fun for the World 600, I think it was. They're fun cars. It'd be cool having them, obviously, at North Wilkesboro. Terrible. At that track that obviously is very famous with those sort of cars from that sort of era. We'll see how we go. But if I can make it, it'd be a good time, I'm sure.
Awesome stuff. Well, is there anyone that you'd like to thank before we let you go, Hinzy? The floor is yours.
Main one will be Brett, obviously. He's the one that did all the setup work. I just really showed up and drove the thing. So really it was Brett's the one who does all the hard work always. So he deserves all the thanks, really, more than me. I just guided around the track, really. So big thanks to Brett for all his work, and congrats to him on a podium. I know he's a bit disappointed that he didn't get the win and was sort of fighting me a bit closer, but still an epic effort from him to get the second. So big congrats and thanks to him. Big thanks obviously to the HGR boys in general. It was a great crew, and big thanks to Majors for putting on a great event as always. Certainly challenging. I'm pretty boned after that, a bit more than I thought it'd be, but yep. Big thanks to you guys for the awesome broadcast as well.
That's Thomas Inns there for Henry James Racing, winner of the Majors Sandown 500. In third spot, it was Travis Walling, who joins us now. That looked like a bit of a quiet one there for you, Travis. Started third, finished third, and we barely saw you involved in anything all the way through. But obviously, this car being the way it is, it couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, no, that was very quiet and lonely, but I am not complaining. That was the hardest race I've ever done, and I am tired and sore. So in a sense, I am thankful that I kind of got off into no man's land and I could just chill out for 3 hours and watch everyone else do their thing. Got to shout out Ross Banfield. He built an awesome set. It was super easy to drive, all things considered. But yeah, no, I'm happy.
As you should be. It seems like, Sandown was really well suited to you. It definitely seems like a track that we need to concentrate on traction and power to get anything done.
Oh, most definitely. It was very, very tricky learning this car and track. I have massive respect for the top two and how fast they can be consistently for 3 hours. But yeah, for me, the last race I did were the pro off-road trucks, and then jumping into this was just completely different. I actually had to tear out my pedals and redo them because I couldn't get the traction out of the corner that I wanted. So yeah, no, this was a challenge. Massive respect to everyone that can do this consistently.
Looking at the standings coming into this round, you were fourth place behind Abramatis. So not much of a points gap between you two. I suppose the difference here, getting on the podium with Abramatis finishing in 10th spot, means that the battle for third in the championship could swing your way coming into the next round.
I hope so. I know next round is going to be a strong round for him and the rest of the mega team. So I'm hoping I can keep it close through there and then really make it a battle the last round where I think I have a little bit of a upper advantage. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very exciting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to it as well. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go, Travis?
Honestly, just the rest of the team. They've been so supportive this entire year. Ross Banfield building amazing sets. Joe Holman has helped me with the strategy, especially this race where I got completely lost on what lap it was. And shout out to you guys for figuring out how to talk for like 3 hours. That blows my mind.
Well, we're good at that.
That's amazing.
None of it makes sense, but we're good at it.
Fair enough.
Well, we've had plenty of experience with that, especially in the last couple of weeks. Oh, well, thanks very much for joining us, Travis. Hopefully we get another chance to chat to you next round.
All right, see you guys.
All right, Travis Walling there with a fantastic podium in the Sandown 500. And, of course, it is the Holly Farms 400J next round of the championship. We're going to North Wilkesboro, and we are racing the 1987 NASCAR Cup cars. It has been a while since I've called a race in these cars. Last time we did it was Charlotte last year, I believe. That was an incredible race. I'm expecting the same here.
It was a race that went in ways that we were not expecting at all, and this is going to be one that I don't know how to plan for. I don't know what to expect. All I know is that it's going to be hectic, action-packed. We've got 3 weeks to try and work out what's going to happen. You'll also be happy to know that DJ will be back next round as well, so you won't have to talk to me, so that'll make it even better.
Oh, no, don't say that. I like talking to you. I like commentating with you.
That's all right.
Can nerd out a bit more about tracks. Well, that's going to bring things to an end for this round of the Majors Series. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to lend your support to Beyond Blue, charity that we are supporting for this round, providing mental health support for those in need. Big thanks to Majors Garage for everything they do, and the crew at the Majors Series for putting all this on in the first place. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube or like us on the socials. We're present on X and on Facebook as well. Just search up SimSpeed and you should be able to find us. I'm Reese Gardner, Jay Kennedy with me in the comms box and in the producer's chair. That's the next round of the Majors Series done and dusted. 2 more to go.